Hello and welcome to episode 117 of the Backlot 605 podcast. I am one of your hosts. I am Casey Kelderman. Join with me, as always, pulling off that Andrew Heller beanie and sweatshirt look is Brian Mensing.
Yeah, hey, sometimes you got to be like, who are my role models, you know?
Andy the Fat Dude is definitely one of them.
Yes.
All right, Brian, you know what? We had our fun last month with Monty Python month. This month is a little different. We're going to kick it into a completely different gear. I think we go from the zaniness of Monty Python movies to something very different. We're jumping into Spike Lee month here for the month of February. It is Black History Month. We figured, why not talk about one of the most important filmmakers of our last, 30 plus years, Spike Lee. And for me and Brian, we're just going to say this right up front. We are not experts on this. We are very much newbies to this entire Spike Lee filmography. So I believe every film we are covering is brand new to both of us, aside from one that just came out this previous year.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's good because you know what? We need help. That's what I'm trying to say. We need help on these shows, so why not call in the help? We are calling in for the relief. We're calling in Rick Wild Thing Vaughn, which I guess is Blake Ginithan. This
I even got the glasses on too.
Yeah. No intro music for you this
That's
time.
fine. That's fine.
We can't afford the licensing for that.
No. Blake, you're not alone.
I'm not.
You're not alone.
No. If anything, I brought the Spike Lee expert with me, so
that's good because we need him.
Well,
Andre,
we'll take it.
a lot of pressure, Andre.
I wouldn't say I'm an expert by any means.
Yeah, I think you and I are both.
You've already been. Blake has already titled you with it, so we're just gonna have to roll with it.
Well, let's give a proper introduction. Andre is back on the show for the first time, I believe, since Killer Countdown Child's Play, right?
Yes,
wow,
that was the last time.
Fun show to do.
Wow, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
We don't even have the show anymore.
No,
that's how long it's been. Been too long.
Talk about a complete shift in tone from what you were talking about to what we're going to talk about.
Are you guys suggesting that Spike Lee is not fun? I'm confused.
No. I'm not suggesting that at all.
Okay.
But I'm saying we're going from Monty Python.
We're gonna have some discussions today, I think.
To do the right thing.
Yeah.
So we're going from fat jokes from Monty Python's Meaning of Life to maybe the most important movie of the last 30 years.
One of them, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're going complete tonal shift is maybe what we're going for here. But before we get into Spike, we'll talk about our history with him. For me and Brian, very brief. But I'm more interested in Blake and Andre's history with Spike Lee. But before we jump into that in the second half of the show, let's jump into our usual weekly box office results for this past weekend. Coming in at number one at the box office, we got Denzel topping the box office. The Little Things, $4.8 million. So The Little Things, what did you guys think? This is also streaming right now on HBO Max. I'm a little surprised we got $4.8 million, but again, I think people are kind of itching to get back in the theaters, itching to get back to seeing things on the big screen. What are your guys' thoughts on Denzel, Jared Leto, and Rami Malek topping the box office?
I think majority of that's Denzel getting people into the box office.
Yeah, I think that helps. It's also January, not much coming out. Looking at the rest of the box office numbers, the other ones have been out there for a while. I know there's only one person on the show that's actually seen this thing in the theater, so has contributed to this box office number. Andre, you did have a chance to watch this new Denzel flick. What was the turnout like in Sioux Falls for this?
I guess with the way the theaters are, limited seating, there was a decent amount of people in the theater for the limited seating that they have. And I think, it's opening weekend and it is Denzel. So no matter what the movie's going to be, with limited seating and limited movies being released, like Brian said, it's Denzel getting people back in the theater. So the turnout was decent from other movies I've been to, with the few amount of people that have been in the theater. Sometimes just only a handful, where there was much more than that this time around. So I was surprised and happy with the turnout of the people that came out to see the movie.
Yeah, I'm glad that a movie is still even though it is streaming right now, if you have HBO Max, it's still getting people to go out there because $4.8 million is nothing. That's not too shabby for a pandemic box office first weekend of release.
The only thing that just kind of brought to my mind that I don't think it would help, not in comparison to Denzel numbers and whatnot, but this is like the first major film that Rami Malek has been in since he got his Oscar for Bohemian Rhapsody. So the fact that they're toting, all the Oscar winners with this here, it's not Leto because he's had trash since he won his Oscar, but not necessarily Rami Malek.
That is not true, sir. How dare you speak on Blade Runner 2049 like that?
I said some trash. I didn't say all trash.
Okay, all right.
Because
some would argue the movie Rami Malek won for is trash. So,
but was he the trash? But he was the trash in it.
He's fine.
Well,
he's fine.
Let's move on from. So, did you like it, Andre?
It was just okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and it was because of Denzel and Leto. They carried the movie. The build-up was great to what you thought was going to be a great finish and climax, and you were completely let down. It was very anticlimactic, a big letdown at the very end that kind of left you wanting more and kind of left a sour taste in your mouth when you were leaving the theater because the suspense and build-up was so great that you just felt like it deserved a better ending, especially with it have been written over 30 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it was written like 1990, and that's when it's based in 1990. So you would think that they would have maybe worked out some kinks and came up with something a little bit better if it's been on the shelf for that long. And especially if you're bringing in 3 Oscar winners and they all go over the script. But
yeah,
it's really just the Oscar winners that in the movie that make the movie really watchable and enjoyable. Other than that, you can watch on HBO Max. Pretty much.
So just for the sake of curiosity, you make the comment that Denzel and Leto are the ones that kind of carry this and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Is this somewhat redeeming for Leto?
What are you redeeming him from? Like Suicide Squad?
A little bit.
Have you seen Blade Runner 2049, Brian?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
But his part is not exactly that large either.
But he's really good at it.
Yeah.
Yes.
He's good in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I see him getting more villain roles going forward from his role in this movie.
The trades were saying that Denzel wasn't putting up with his shit on set. Supposedly, like Leto was trying to get like really in character and do like these weird things, not like maybe to the vein of the Suicide Squad, but like doing being what's a method actor. And Denzel was like, no, not doing that. So that's pretty cool to hear.
Good, yeah.
Jared, I like Jared Leto.
I do too.
He needs to be put in his place.
Yeah.
Denzel's a guy to do that too.
I can get behind that.
Let's go to number 2 then. Crude's a New Age, still sticking around. This movie has been in the box office since the movie takes place. Probably that Stone Age. $1.84 million. Crude's a New Age. I don't know if we have any other thoughts on the rest of the box office, really.
It's just there's no other kids movies out there, and people want to get their kids out of the house and whatnot. That's all they have options for.
Here's the next HBO Max experiment: Wonder Woman 1984, $1.3 million. Got to be wondering what those numbers are. I wonder what the numbers are looking like for a total here, because I know HBO is contributing a lot of their new subscribers to the success of Wonder Woman being on their streaming service. So I'm wondering what the box office is looking like in return. Maybe if they're kind of evening out on this as far as getting those HBO $15 a month for the last 2 months. Well, 1 month, I guess, is all they got. But continuing that into January, I think we can still contribute Wonder Woman to those numbers.
Being that this is the first week that it hasn't been on HBO, I think also attributes to why it hasn't dipped as far down, further down that, because now this is the only way people can see it. Because I did pull up last week's whatever, and it only dropped down 300,000. So I think it would have gone, if it would have still been HBO Max, I think it would have been probably, further down than third place.
All right, going to fourth place, Liam Neeson, The Marksman, $1.25 million, king of the box office in the last year. This guy just can't keep the old man down. Number 5 is Monster Hunter, just under $1 million. Well, the only movie under $1 million on our top 5 here, $740,000. Interested to see what our box office will continue to look like as we do get some more new movies rolling out here in the next couple months, especially with the HBO Max dual releases coming out here. So that'll be interesting, especially Kong versus Godzilla is really what I'm wondering what the box office will look like for that. I don't know.
It's going to have monstrous results.
One can only hope. Let's move on past that bad pun. Let's move to the news then. Brian, what do we got for the news for this week?
We don't have a whole lot of news. Nothing a whole lot to... Anyway, first thing we have is Kevin Hart to join Eli Roth's Borderlands in a lead role. Number one, I don't know if we need a Borderlands movie. Video game movies don't seem to do all that great. I guess we'll see what Eli Roth has to do or how he contributes to that. But to have Kevin Hart in an Eli Roth movie, I think is just a weird, bizarre pairing. But maybe that's for the good. I don't know. I don't know how I see about this just because I don't know if I'm even excited even for Borderlands in the first place.
I don't think we're getting Hostel or Cabin Fever Eli Roth anymore. I think he's past. I think he's moving past that a little.
Yeah, he's not like a sellout, but he's Hollywood now.
Yeah,
we're not going to get the clock in the walls.
No, that's what we are going to get.
I mean, it's still probably going to be a Gonzo movie.
Yeah, but I think he's going more mainstream. I think
he's not going to skin a girl in the movie or anything like that.
I kind of hope Kevin Hart does, but. I mean, you see, Kevin Hart he's joining Eli Roth, like his co-star from Jumanji, the Jumanji movies Jack Black did. So I think Eli Roth is moving into, like, in 2005, you wouldn't have expected Jack Black to appear in an Eli Roth movie.
Or Cate Blanchett.
Yeah, to appear in an Eli Roth movie.
In 2005, you weren't expecting Eli Roth to make a kids movie either.
No, and I think he's moving on that kind of career trajectory. And
doesn't he have kids now, though, too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought he made that Clocks movie because he was like, I need my kids to watch some movie that I've made.
It's his Spy Kids.
It's funny how many times whether actors, directors, or anybody in the field that has like a niche that they're in are like, I need to do this because I need something my kids can actually watch. Like you hear that a lot, actually.
Having said all this, I'll probably show my daughter all of Eli Roth's movies before she's 10. So,
like a good father would.
Yeah,
like a good father should.
Are you guys excited for this? I am not excited by it.
No.
We knew about the Borderlands movie for a while.
Yeah, I mean, video game movies are batting like 0 for 50, so I don't.
Right.
I mean, like, I just have no faith in video game movies.
You mean 1 for 50? Mortal Kombat came out.
Okay, let's go for a 1, and then what is it, a 2% success rate? So, yeah, I mean.
And that's even Blake giving you the benefit of the doubt with that. You hear the hesitation in his voice.
Yeah, I just don't think they translate well. You know, like maybe the Uncharted one might be successful because it's kind of inspired by Indiana Jones, you know, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, the Kevin Hart stuff doesn't excite me. He's never been an actor that's excited me. To see him hop into this makes me think this is going more Jumanji route than it would like a hard R Eli Roth post-apocalypse movie.
I mean, the cool thing is it might be that with a really wild Kevin Hart performance.
If it is, if
it's like Kevin Hart in The Wedding Ringer in an Eli Roth like bloodbath, then I'm all for that. I mean, that's gonna be crazy.
All right,
I guess just me though.
Yeah,
so.
Just you?
Okay.
This next one's all you too, Blake.
Yeah, This next one's all for Blake. All for Blake.
Is it a Trent Reznor new? Oh, Zack Snyder. Okay.
Zack Snyder's Justice League to release March 18th on HBO Max. The nice 4-hour epic recut of the Snyder cut that we're finally getting. That I'm curious to see how this eventually goes because of all the fanboys and everybody that wanted to release the Snyder cut. We're finally going to get it. I can't wait to see what actually happens. Are we going to get something much better? Or are we going to be like, well, that was $70 million worth of wasted time and effort?
Can't get much worse than the Justice.
You say that just because there's a low bar doesn't mean you can't limbo underneath of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can. I guess that is true. This is a movie we've been talking about for a while, and I'm glad it's just finally coming out.
Just so it can be past tense.
rip the Band-Aid off. Let's get this shit over with. Move on past Zack Snyder's Justice League. I might watch it. I don't know. I haven't been impressed by a whole lot of any Warner Brothers DC stuff in a while, and especially Snyder's last couple. So I don't know. I don't care anymore really with this movie. And to know it's a 4-hour movie now is what they're saying. I guess they can't decide if it's going to be a miniseries or a movie. Apparently now it's set on it's a 4-hour long movie. That makes me want to watch this even less.
Warner Brothers is like, we finally have something that we can try to outdo The Irishman with.
Yeah, Zack Snyder, the Martin Scorsese of comic book movies.
Right. I'll try. When this comes out in March, I'll try to be the sacrificial lamb and see if I can make it in one sitting.
This is the type of movie where I say to myself, I'm never gonna watch this, and I'm gonna find myself.
You're gonna end up watching it.
I'm gonna find myself bored on March 18th. I'm gonna be like, yeah, why not? So I'm not saying anything about this because I tell myself I'm not gonna watch it, but I probably will.
You probably will. But that's all we've got for news this week.
But it can't be worse than Wonder Woman 1984. So
you say that. Again, you keep that bar low and just realize that Zack Snyder can still get underneath of it.
We'll see.
We could have a sucker punch on it.
We'll see.
Guys.
Or a 300.
300's fine. Zack Snyder's just not a good director. I think maybe that's what we're trying to get at here. He doesn't have a good movie.
Listen, I vote that we not talk about Do the Right Thing and just shit talk Zack Snyder for the next 2 hours.
Okay. Let me get my background changed.
The more culturally important movies.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's get out of Zack Snyder territory, please. Let's go to coming soon then.
That's all the news.
All right, perfect. So, yes, perfect.
Yeah, why not?
That's what I said. I said there's nothing else.
There is nothing else. Not a whole lot going on, even in coming soon territory. The first one we're going to talk about here is a brand new Netflix movie coming out February 5th, Malcolm and Marie.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the brand new Netflix part of their, one movie a week thing? Is that what they're going for, right?
And so far in the last week of January, there was 2 of them, so they're even going above and beyond that.
Yeah, and I have watched none. That is fine. This stars John David Washington and Zendaya. This is the one that was shot during the pandemic. Black and white feature film. What do you guys think of this? And I know there's been a lot of controversy and with this movie already with the age difference between Zendaya and John David Washington. I think Zendaya probably said it the best. Like, doesn't matter. She's an adult. She can be in whatever role she wants to be and have an on-screen romance.
How old is she?
She's mid-20s.
And how old is he?
He's in his mid-30s.
Okay.
I don't see an issue.
Yeah.
I think it's more she was a Disney Channel star and has still working on shedding that.
Wait until these people. Wait until these people see a Woody Allen movie, then they can complain.
The people who know Zendaya probably never seen a Woody Allen movie.
This sounds pretty cool. Who's the director again? I saw his credits and I'm like, I really like that movie.
Sam Levinson. He did HBO Max's Euphoria.
What else? What's the movie?
Assassination.
That one. I like that one quite a bit. So I'm really excited to see what this is all about. I didn't watch the trailer. I don't like watching trailers. And I like John David Washington a lot. I think I love watching his movies and closing my eyes, and I hear Denzel so much through his voice. So I think he's got that going for him. But this sounds super cool. Anytime someone big stars get in sort of this, I'm not calling this avant-garde or anything, but this different type of movie, these movie stars, I'm all for it, and I'm kind of excited to see what it's all about.
Well, this will be a lot different than anything Zendaya's done.
Well, or so John David Washington. Yeah.
Probably going to be better than John David Washington's last movie. I'm tentatively looking forward to this. This is one we've been talking about for a while. I think we talked about it when it first was announced. It was shooting during the pandemic, and I think I'm interested as far as an experiment in that we're getting movies that were shot during the pandemic coming out, and what those might look like. Is it going to be any different? Are we going to see any difference on screen because of what has been happening off screen? So that'll be remain to be seen.
Yeah. I think we can, like, I don't know if you guys watch network TV at all or anything, but they'll show previews for like shows, and some of these shows there's people wearing masks and they have glass, dividers and stuff. So there's some of that actually you could see in real time. But I too I'm wondering, like, I mean, this sounds like a romantic movie in a way. So I'm wondering, like, if like not severe, but like, really strong COVID testing was done each day for filming, which I imagine they did. How long was the shooting for? Do you know?
Looks it was just shot in June.
Yeah.
From what I remember, it was not a very long shoot either.
Yeah.
Wrote in 6 days during lockdown, filmed right after. So,
yeah. I would imagine that they really knock these movies out. 2, 3, 4 weeks maybe.
And I mean, from what it sounds like, it takes place pretty much in their apartment between the two actors.
Geez, yeah. So at that point, you're just switching up setups in one location. So
yeah.
Very cool.
Let's go to the next thing that we got up here. This is a brand new film from Studio Ghibli, their first film in 4 years, I believe. This is Earwig and the Witch, hitting theaters for a limited Fathom Events run starting February 3rd, then hitting HBO Max February 5th. Earwig and the Witch. So this is about a 10-year-old orphan girl in the 1990s who learns that her mom was actually a witch, which, this is going to be released both in, obviously, the Japanese and English dub versions. Some of the English cast includes Richard E. Grant, Dan Stevens, and Casey Musgraves. So, directed by the son of Hayao Miyazaki, who has done pretty much all of Studio Ghibli's main big features. So, Earwig and the Witch. Guys, excited? Yes. I know we're big anime fans here.
Not a huge anime fan, but I love Studio Ghibli stuff, and they for me bat pretty close to 100%. So I just can't see this failing. Although it could be the first one, but it's also their first computer animated too, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, did you say that? I'm sorry. So that's gonna be a little different, but I don't know. Like, they usually get their stories right, so I can't see this failing.
So you're saying that I have a black hole of anime that I should probably get myself into, is what you're saying?
Have you never seen Spirited Away?
I've never seen a single Studio Ghibli film at all.
You need to see Spirited Away, Princess Mononoke, Howl's Moving Castle. I mean, anything Hayao Miyazaki has made is pretty much incredible for me that I've seen.
Yeah, I'm in the same blind spot as Brian. I really have not seen any of those that you just mentioned, or really any anime movies.
I'm pretty sure the only full-length movie anime I've ever seen is Akira.
Yeah.
I'll echo what Blake was saying. They are pretty much a bat for 100 studio. They're much like what's the stop motion group now? Box Trolls and
Leica.
Leica, yeah. They're very much like that. Everything they do is pretty much they hit it out of the park. I think me and Blake might be in the same boat. Spirited Away probably is their best. I think we both really tried hard.
It's the first one I saw, so I tend to say it's my favorite.
This will be a first weekend watch for us in our house. Anime is not my thing. It is Kayla's thing. So, and Studio Ghibli is her go-to. So this is, as soon as this hits HBO, that'll be on our screen as soon as possible.
Of course it will.
Yeah. So that's it for the new releases. But let's jump into something I know Blake is a little excited about. So these are the Sioux Falls State Theater.
Oh, yes!
For this upcoming weekend. Some of the movies that they will be playing over the 4-day weekend: The Thing, MLK/FBI, Cool Runnings, and Dirty Dancing. So quite the lineup. This is also, I believe, in conjunction with the
Winter Carnival
going on at is it Great Bear? Right. Some of the stuff going on
possibly.
Out there,
I'm not very into
downtown Sioux Falls as well. So
we're
getting a lot of cold themed movies here.
Can I just have a double feature of The Thing and Cool Runnings, so it's all winter based?
The great thing about next Saturday when The Thing shows, it's going to be near 0 degrees outside, so it's going to be like really great to walk into the State Theater and like watch a movie like that. Pretty exciting.
I was thinking more of getting done watching The Thing and going out to the 0 degree weather and just feel like you just literally went into that environment.
Yeah, both. I've never seen Dirty Dancing before, so I'm kind of trying to convince my wife that we should go. But
how have you never seen Dirty Dancing?
How have you never seen Spirited Away?
Because
No excuses.
It's Dirty Dancing.
There's so many movies out there to watch. I think we all have our blind spots. Blake's blind spots are mom movies. We decided this the other night. He has not seen Grease, Dirty Dancing.
Who decided this?
I decided this.
Okay.
For you. What was the other?
I didn't know if Eccles was involved. I have to give him a ring.
He might have been.
Yeah.
What was the other one you hadn't seen?
I haven't seen Grease, Rocky Horror Picture Show. I don't know.
You've seen Footloose.
I've seen Footloose. Yeah.
All right.
I haven't seen Dirty Dancing either, and I don't plan on seeing it, to be honest with you.
You both need a bro night out to watch Swayze and Dirty Dancing.
I was just about to say, is Andre's just like, he doesn't want to fall in love with those Swayze eyes.
Right. Ever since Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
Since he was a Chippendale.
With the Chippendales, yep. Yeah.
Swayze eyes. Brian, was that a play on Lazy Eyes?
No, not at all.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh, that's pretty good, Brian. You should have said yes, Brian.
No. I was going to say is, watch Dirty Dancing, then follow Donnie Darko. It'll completely wash away any of the heartthrob at all with Swayze.
Yeah.
I was hoping they would do a Roadhouse double feature with Dirty Dancing right after, but maybe down the road. This is a pretty stacked weekend. I'm excited to watch The Thing in the theaters. Like Blake said, freezing weather. I kind of hope it starts snowing as soon as the movie ends as we're walking out. That would be pretty incredible.
Walk out to a blizzard.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that. Not to drive home in it, but for the feeling of watching The Thing and then having a snowstorm come through, that'd be all right.
It'd be pretty dope, yeah.
But yeah, I'm tentative on checking out Cool Runnings. I've never seen that on the big screen.
You've never seen Cool Runnings? Jeez, what are you doing with your life over here?
On the big screen. Let him finish his sentence.
On the big screen.
I don't care. Screw you, Casey.
I didn't say anything about Dirty Dancing. But this is a pretty fun weekend. They got quite an array of.
I really want to see MLK FBI. If I have time, I might check that out because it sounds really interesting, and it's gonna have a lot of stuff that I didn't know, or don't know. Mm-hmm. So
right.
Yeah, I plan on not seeing that either. It's just I know it's gonna just piss me off. And I don't need to be in the theater pissed off. So
that's why Andre's gonna go watch some John Candy and Cool Runnings.
Yes, I will. I actually want to see that in the theater. I like that movie a lot.
I think that'd be a lot of fun in the theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when we went to Dazed and Confused, people were freaking hot for McConaughey. Everything he said was a...
God, I had to unzip my pants for McConaughey. That was crazy.
I think playing a comedy like that, there's certain actors that'll get people in that same type of vibe. I think some of the lines out of Cool Runnings will get the crowd pretty hot for it.
People were thirsting over McConaughey Friday night. Oh, my God.
There's a scene like when he's introduced, he kind of just drives by. He's not even saying anything, and people are like, "Woo!"
No, he was saying, "All right," and then some guy just sort of howling. Like it was pretty great. It was pretty great.
The entire crowd, including Blake and myself, were thirsty for McConaughey.
Yep,
that's true.
You're always thirsty for a little McConaughey.
That's all right. Hey, let's move on. That is it for coming soon for this week. Pretty relaxed weekend here coming up here for the first weekend in February. But again, let us know what you guys are watching this upcoming weekend. Go check out the full coming soon article, backlot605.com. There's a few other releases we did not talk about, so go check out the article there. Figure out everything else that is going on for the first weekend of February. But you know what, Brian, we're not going to take a break because we're cruising right along here. I think we're just going to jump right into our main topic for this week then.
Okay.
Let's do it. So let's jump in.
I got my water. We're good.
Zack Snyder's filmography. Let's do this, guys. Dawn of the Dead. What are your guys' thoughts?
Better than the original.
I would have to agree with that.
I'm kidding. That movie, it's good. It's nowhere near as good as the original. Sorry, Brian. Sorry.
Brian, have you ever seen the original?
No, I actually haven't.
Oh.
I've seen, okay, let me rephrase. I've seen bits and pieces.
How have you not seen Dawn of the Dead?
I think I've seen 2 out of the 7 George Romero Dead movies.
There are 35, sir.
At least. Gotta be.
All right, let's actually go into what we're talking about this week. We're kicking off Spike Lee month with a Spike Lee joint, Do the Right Thing, 1989. So I'm going to throw it off to Blake and Andre first. Brian, this is a first-time watch for both you and I this past weekend, so
This is less than 6 hours worth of last time I seen this.
Hell yeah, Brian.
There
You're
we go.
fresh.
Oh yeah, I got up, made sure I had enough time to get it watched, so I knew I can get recorded here today.
So, quick backstory, and then I'll throw it off to Blake and Andre here. When we announced we were going to do Spike Lee movies, Blake was talking to me about it, and he's like, "You guys are doing Do the Right Thing, right?" Yeah. And Blake said, "I need to be on."
Okay,
right?
Yeah. Okay, so
that's how Casey told it to me. So I assumed that it'd be true.
I want to explain myself.
Everything I say is the truth.
I want to explain myself. I think this is a very, very important movie about if we're doing Black History Month. You got to have arguably the greatest African American director of all time, and be his best movie. And then I mean, this is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I know we need to promote Black voices and whatnot, but it was like I'm here because I love this movie and I want to talk about it, but I will I'll try to be out of the picture more with it. I'll let Andre speak more on it. Than
literally on the camera.
Yeah.
You're literally mostly out of the picture right now, anyway.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I said I shouldn't be in frame at all. But I think this movie is just incredible, and I think it does. I think it's like in terms of like what it's trying to say about our issues in this country are perfect because it doesn't have answers and it doesn't give answers. Because there are no answers. I guess maybe there is. I don't know, but I think it's good to discuss what this movie's trying to say because it has a lot to say while kind of like not giving you anything to really take home. Maybe I don't know. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
It shows a lot of different characters and a lot of different issues all these characters have. It doesn't just really put a microscope on one specific topic.
Yeah,
it kind of shows you all these different types of characters that are in the same neighborhood, but they're all completely different from one another, and they all have different issues, and they all deal with their issues differently.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really just pigeonhole and beat you to death with one specific topic. The entire movie shows a lot of different areas and aspects of just a specific, one neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, everyday life.
Yeah.
And just how people react to their environment and how even everybody in the same environment experiences the same environment differently.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't really, like I said, like Blake said, there's not really an answer. It's just kind of it's kind of like almost like a camera just following around.
Yeah, it feels like a documentary.
A documentary almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what Spike Lee, I think, started out at NYU. Like, have you seen She's Gotta Have It?
Not. I don't think I have.
It's a lot of it's just like people talking to the camera.
Yep.
So it feels kind of like that. And that idea is what kind of Spike does a lot throughout his career too. He has people talk directly at the camera, like at you.
Which in this movie, there's a part of that. Whole scene of that. Yeah.
We'll get to that, but yeah. Yep. I think this movie is just like it's one of the most important movies ever made too. And I think we should just do a full spoiler thing now. Like we'll talk about everything that happens in it, but like there's a scene at the end, but like 3/4 of the way through that happens, and it's like that just happened last year, and our country almost melted down because of it. Mm-hmm. And I even though I'd seen the movie previously, it was like, God, this stuff's still happening. This is still an issue. This is still an issue, and I completely forgotten that Spike kind of highlighted it in a major movie, 30 plus years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I like how Spike is unapologetic in his movie making. Like he does what he wants to do. He doesn't really do what Hollywood would want him to do. He doesn't really care that if you like it or not.
Yeah.
He's going to do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
He could have easily sold out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And been more even.
Though, like, at some point you deserve to sell out. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. Yep.
He can go make his Girl 6 or what's the other one? She hate me but even those are still like black stories on a level, like what would you like maybe Summer of Sam, but even that is still like a very grungy, dirty little movie. Like I don't know if he's even Inside Man, I guess would be a Hollywood movie where he's
that would be the most Hollywood movie that I could.
I'm
going to
make my Hollywood bank money, and even so, he had Denzel at the center of it. So
Yeah, this movie was obviously the talk of I think it was a movie on everybody's mind back in, early spring last year. And this was really a movie everybody was just talking about and talking about Do the Right Thing. And it was getting played a lot on it was one of the most rented movies, I think.
Oh, was it?
Back then, this past summer. And yeah, well, now that we're, jumping into Spike Lee month, and this is a first time watch for me and Brian, it is, I put it in my, Letterboxd review after I watched it. I usually just put like one sentence and I said, this movie was made in 2020, right? Oh, you could have fooled me, because this feels even more, maybe not even more so, but it feels like this is still making statements we're talking about today, which is scary to think.
Yeah.
Spike made these statements over 30 years ago, and now we're still talking about them. It feels like as much as things have changed, some things have just literally stayed the same, which is a scary thing to think about.
And that's one of the biggest things I took away from it just at the very beginning. Like you said, is this, this movie, the only thing that makes that you can see this movie is from 1989 is because of some of the dialogue and basically how they're dressed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you dress these people in today's, and adjust the dialogue for today's type of dialogue, you wouldn't know that this movie is 30 years old, because he showcased something, 31 years ago that, or whatever, that, we haven't fixed. We haven't corrected the ship this many years later. Things have changed, but things have not changed. And, I come in this movie, it did take me aback to realize that is very true today.
So I think we should kind of jump into the plot, get some of our characters, who we got in this movie.
Yeah, because that's going to motivate a lot of the discussion.
And then jump
very
into
much
the discussion here. Obviously, this movie is set on one of the hottest days of the year. It is set in a single Brooklyn, New York community. Basically, it's just following a day in the life of the people that live in this community. There's not a whole lot of plot. It's not a plotty movie. It is literally, like we said, it's like a documentary. You're following different characters. Characters are weaving in and out of this story, and you're getting introduced to dozens of characters that live in this community. I mean, obviously, our protagonist, and the one we're following, is played by Spike Lee, and he's a pizza delivery guy who works at this Italian pizza place, walking up and down the streets delivering pizzas in this prominently black community. But also we have the Italian-owned business right across the street. We have the Chinese Korean market. Hey. That's something that is brought up in the movie. But along with that, we get introduced to everybody along here, and even we get introduced to the police characters. We get introduced basically to our one pretty much white character in one scene. That's just basically this just generic white dude in the Celtics uniform, which is a great scene that we obviously have to talk about. But yeah, this is basically just following these people's lives and how they live their lives. And yeah, let's kind of jump into the cast here. I mean, like I said, Spike Lee is the star of the film. We also have Danny Aiello, Ozzie Davis, Giancarlo Esposito, John Turturro. The first film for, Martin Lawrence's first film. Rosie Perez. Yeah, Sam Jackson plays the radio DJ.
Ruby D.
We got
Ruby, yeah.
Keep going on the list.
And cast. Spike Lee's sister in the movie is played by his sister.
So yeah, this is a massive cast. I mean, massive cast of characters that we are talking about throughout this movie too. And where do you guys want to kind of start off with this? I think that's the hardest thing. Is like, where do you start?
Yeah,
start at the end and you work your way back.
I don't know. No,
what's?
I think you got to kind of like talk about like. The movie starts off with, Mookie is getting ready to go to work, and Mookie's kind of a bum, I don't know if he's just like lackadaisical about his
day.
Yeah, or like if he doesn't want to work, or if he does, he just hates where he's at, or because of his surroundings, kind of like you said, like his environment, and so he's kind of a bum. But he's worked for Sal, I'm guessing, for a few years, or I don't know how long. They never really mention it. And then it's just kind of about him like interacting with people in the neighborhood, and then slowly like they start interacting with each other, and you see their relationships and their beliefs and how they maybe how they feel oppressed, or how they do good for the neighborhood or are bad for the neighborhood. And it's the hottest day of the year, I guess you could say. Like the Heat is, and you could argue that the Heat is kind of maybe the instigator in all of this, or maybe not the instigator, but it's the fuse that lights the match. At a certain point, the Heat gets to everybody, which is why I think Florida is its own like weird little nation. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to describe the movie because it's more about interaction with people and how races are, like when they're pushed up against each other and there's this, years of animosity. Like at some point, if I don't know if I want to say if you're taught a certain way, but it's just if you grow up a certain way, like you have certain beliefs, maybe not beliefs, but like ideas of what another race brings to the table. Like Jenny Aiello's sons think that black people are lazy and they don't do anything. And Aiello is like, well, like they provided for us, like they're our extended family, and so like there's different ideas about and like, there's the scene with Giancarlo Esposito who is like, why are you on my block, on my side of the block? And the white guy's like, well, I was born in Brooklyn, like there's all these ideas about what races bring to a social setting, and then the Heat is what really is flaring up these the emotions in people, and of course what happens at the end happens at the end. But it's so this is a really hard movie to discuss now that we're in talking about it, without.
It's a hard movie to discuss in terms of like usually we go beat by beat in a plot, but you can't really do that. You've got to more talk about characters and their interactions.
This is all the character driven.
I think the best thing I want to start with the Danny Aiello character, because you brought up something with him, and I think he's one of the most interesting characters to look at in this movie, because you said his sons are the ones that are saying, why are we living in this neighborhood? Why are we dealing with these people that are different than us?
But it's
not his sons. It's one
just
son.
Right. Yeah, it's just the one son.
Just John Turturro.
Yeah, you're right about that. Yeah.
But then his other son is very much trying to be very good friends with Mookie, the main character.
Yeah.
He's trying to be his friend.
Yeah.
And he's like, how do I deal with my brother? How do I deal with my dad? Going to him for advice.
Yeah.
Very different. All three of those guys in that family have very different relationships. And that's kind of, I want to start with them because Danny Aiello's character is like, on the surface level, you feel like, he has a very interesting relationship with Mookie because, obviously he works for him, but like he says in his speech at the end of the movie where he's talking about adding the sons' names to the building, he says, Mookie, I always thought of you as another son. Like, you always have a place here with me at my pizza place. Mm-hmm. And I feel like he generally does believe that, and I feel like what he says about the neighborhood as well is that, like, these kids grew up on my pizza. I feel very important. Like, I feel that's a part of my life where I feel that's a very important part of it. But obviously his interactions with other characters show him in a very different light, which I think are very interesting to discuss. So what are you guys' thoughts on his character, how he has interactions with other characters as well? I mean, the way he treats Mookie is very different than he treats Giancarlo Esposito and Radio Raheem, but they also treat him very differently.
It goes with a certain amount of tolerance that you have, and so like he's accepting to Mookie because he can tolerate him. Mm-hmm. And then when you see Esposito's character, Radio Raheem's character, he can't quite tolerate their attitude and who they are as people, so he's going to have a different attitude towards them as well. And so it's a dynamic relationship that he has with the neighborhood. It's just like he can tolerate some of them, but not all of them. But he's been there for so long that he feels like he's a part of that neighborhood. So it's not like he's just going to pick up and leave just because he can't tolerate, just a few of them. Mm-hmm. And of course, I mean, if, when Esposito comes in and is talking all loud, disturbing customers, as a business owner, you understand, like he's going to have he's going to have to get it under control. Like you can't have one of your customers in there acting a fool like that. So I can understand why he is the way he is towards Esposito, and it is his restaurant, and he can do what he wants in his restaurant, and he's going to have to also accommodate to the rest of his customers as well. So he's going to have to somehow crack down on the rules a little bit.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think with his sons is you can pick and choose what you want to accept or what you tolerate, and what your influences are. So I think the older son that resents all the black people because he talks about how his friends back home where they're from make fun of him.
Yep.
That's the influence that he lets guide his reaction and his attitude towards black people.
Yeah.
He's like, so, I keep getting made fun of. And so he thinks that these black people are kind of bringing him down, doesn't want to be around them, and he resents them for that. Whereas the other son doesn't have that influence from his friends. He likes Mookie. He likes some of the other people in that neighborhood. So he has a completely different relationship with them, even though they're two sons from the same family and they grew up in the same household, but they have completely different outlooks because of what they choose to let influence them. So I think that's kind of what this whole movie's about, is that you have these people all from this kind of the same area, but they have different things that influence them. So you have different types of characters and how they handle the adversity that's thrown at them in the movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the genius about this movie is that you get to see all the different types of reactions that all these people have to the same circumstance, and that you're not just a product of your neighborhood. You can pick and choose what you want to influence you and how you're going to go about your attitude, and pick and choose your attitude. And if you want it to be negative, it's going to be negative. If you choose to be positive, it can be positive. And that's what's brilliant about this movie, is that Spike has it's a very evenly balanced movie. It flows very well. Like I said, there's no plot, but you don't even recognize that there's not a plot. Most movies, if there's not a plot, you're like, where's this going? You don't think that in this movie. You're just watching it and enjoying it, and don't even realize there's not a plot. He has a very good flow and balance in this movie, just because of the strong characters and the mix of all the different characters in this movie. So I mean, that's what I got away from the sons and Sal's sons in this movie, and just how they chose to what they want to have influence them.
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
One of the things that I take away, at least from Sal and whatnot, is Sal seems much a mirror to whatever he's approached with. Like, he's got a better tolerance with Mookie, because Mookie is somber. He's not all up in his face and whatnot. But as soon as Esposito and all of them get up in his face, he immediately is, faced with confrontation. So his brain immediately is like, well, then I need to, bring out the baseball bat, because I need to show my dominance and whatnot. Where, you're absolutely correct. As a business owner, be like, I don't need this in my house. You just need to get out and be civil about it, as opposed to just getting a baseball bat. But I think he himself was a mirror, because he'd been in that neighborhood for so long. He knew where his place was there and whatnot, but he just had he himself struggled with, taking in how he's being presented with something, and that's how he responded. His response is what I think is what made him.
And I think that's one of the most interesting things about this movie, is how other characters react to everybody else in the movie. It's like there's so many different interactions in this, because I mean, if you present this as a typical Hollywood movie, I mean, Mookie and his friends are probably our protagonists in a typical Hollywood movie, right?
Go ahead. I just have you made me think of something, but go ahead.
And especially what happens to the character of Radio Raheem, you would think of him as a protagonist character, but very much in nearly every scene he's in, he's very antagonistic.
Yeah. And
that's not necessarily defining his character either, but it's just these interactions that people have with each other.
Yeah, I think that the discussion of race is eventually going to come into this, so I'm going to kick it off. I'd be curious if you asked like a black family who the protagonists are in this, and if you asked a white family who the protagonists are in this movie. We'll see what answers you get. And I'm not saying I don't know. I mean, I've seen this movie a handful of times, and I still don't know where I lean on the like.
Let's throw it out there. Let's see what because I think that creates a very interesting discussion.
That's going to lead into the whole like MLK Malcolm X discussion, because that is a heavy thing in this movie. But is Mookie's actions at the end of the movie, are they legitimate, or is it breaking the law or whatever? But I get it. I get the the system. A fight against a system has to happen at some point for change to happen, and his actions are that change. And so it's like, oh, maybe him doing that is the right thing, hence the title. But I don't know, like, and that's why I love this
question I have.
That's why I love this movie is like all these things happen and I'm kind of like, I understand that. And then it's like, I disagree with it all at the same time, like,
Yep.
And I don't know, and like, I think a good movie is supposed to ask questions and not answer them. I think that's why this is so successful. But yeah, I mean, Radio Raheem is arguably as an antagonist to the pizza shop as Giancarlo Esposito is. It's a bug out. Is that his name in the movie?
Yeah.
So like, it's such a hard thing to.
The question of bringing up who's the protagonist, who's the antagonist. I think the answer to that is there's neither.
Yeah.
Everybody is both.
Everybody does something that is heinous, and then everybody also does very humane things to everyone else in this movie. Andre, we shared text messages last year when I was watching this about, like, because I remember asking you like, well, is Sal a racist or is Pino a racist? And you said something that has stuck with me ever since. And you said, I don't think they're racist. I think people say things that they know is hurtful, and that's the easiest thing to go for.
Yeah, when you're usually like you do this with your best friends, with this boyfriend or girlfriend. If you're getting in an argument with somebody and you want to hurt them the most, you're going to say the most insultful thing, an offensive thing that is going to make them the most angry. So I think a lot of people may not be racist, but when they're dealing with other people from a different race, they may say something that's going to attack their race because they know that's going to be the most hurtful thing that they can say to that individual person.
There's a certain point in this movie where, like, Sal, obviously loves his customers, obviously has a love thing with Spike Lee's sister in the movie, like wants her, seemingly sexually, but like, Radio Raheem comes in playing the music and he straight up calls him the N-word, just like no hesitation. And it's like, whoa, where did this come from? And then when you said that to me, I was like, well, clearly he's chosen the sharpest knife and he's pulling out immediately. And, and I think there's a lot of interesting things in this movie about, like I said earlier, about how we view other races and, and what they bring to the table. A lot of that is just, it feels so real and lived in this movie. It doesn't feel like it's just said because it's part of a script. Like, it really feels like Spike Lee, like, I watched an interview with Spike Lee this morning and he said he wrote the script in 10 days, which, whether that's true or not, like, either he's an incredible genius of a writer or he wrote it in 10 days and then, worked on it for a while. But like, his ability to really understand what really cuts, emotionally, he got it spot on, I think. I mean, would you say? I mean, I don't.
And I think him, born and raised in Brooklyn, a lot of it was just personal experience that he already had. So it really didn't take a whole lot of imagination to come up with a lot of this.
Right.
He probably, you imagine he probably based a lot of those characters off of people he's already met and knew in his own personal life.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, if you go to a Brooklyn, New York neighborhood, you're going to see an Italian pizzeria.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like, he even makes a comment like, I could go back to my neighborhood, but there's already 5 pizza joints there. Like, mine's been here forever. And then he's like, I fed these kids for years. Like, they grew up with my pizza.
In 89, you're going to see a dude walking around with a boombox.
Yeah.
Like that's what
I want to know why there was only one guy with a boombox.
Right, exactly. Yeah. There's definitely
there's 2 guys in a boombox battle.
Yeah, one boombox battle in 2 hours. That was unrealistic.
Brian's like 1 star.
That's the most unrealistic thing about the movie. Is just the only one boombox battle.
Right.
Yeah. I want to jump off what something Andre said with how characters interact with each other and how you're getting in a fight with someone, you're going to pull out the biggest weapon you have. In the case of a verbal battle, you're going to throw slurs at each other. There's literally a scene where that's the entire scene is where, like we talked about with Spike, he has characters facing the camera and everybody's throwing out racial insults to everyone. And it's 5 different groups I think they're running through.
It's about a minute long, I think. And it's just straight up like every slur, what's the word when you
just downgrading every someone's race and personality.
And I don't know if that is like a the movie itself sort of like letting off steam, maybe, or if it was like showing how hurtful it is when it's directed right at you. I don't know. I can't. I don't remember if there's any way
of both, and it's also showing that I don't think that whenever people think of racism, it's usually white people are a racist type of thing towards.
Generally, yeah.
But I think that shows that it's not necessarily a race thing about racism.
No, yeah.
It comes in all ways, shapes, and forms, and I think that scene is definitely more of how words can put other people down more than anything else.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, I think it is a scene about letting off steam. You talk about being set on the hottest day of summer.
Because it kind of just comes out of nowhere. Yeah. Like there's literally a scene where they're talking about racial epitaphs and whatever, and then boom, it just happens. Where I think Radio Raheem is even one of them, where he's just like talking about Koreans in a certain derogatory remarks, but that's Spike Lee for you.
And I think doing it this way, I think it puts it literally in your face because they're literally talking directly at the camera. And as opposed to just trying to weave it and sprinkle it in through certain dialogues throughout the film or whatever, you're literally presented with it from multiple angles with basically the exact same thing. And it's nothing you can't deny, kind of thing. And I think that is what makes it more powerful.
There's another scene I kind of want to jump off that then is when Radio Raheem gets his facing the camera monologue with the love and the hate and his entire interaction with that. I mean, I think that's really kind of what the movie is about, is that scene right there. And we get that especially later on with what's the character? He's selling the picture of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
I don't know his name.
I will find it.
The actor's
Smiley.
Yeah. The actor's incredible.
And that's basically kind of what this movie is definitely one of the things it's trying to say. That's trying to say a lot of things. What are you guys' thoughts on that scene with him just facing the camera, doing the love-hate thing? Obviously, I had to look this up after, a throwback to a movie that I just watched last year that I'm like sort of connected in the back of my mind. I'm like, I've seen something like this before. And it was in Charles Lawton's Night of the Hunter. That's the antagonist of that movie says basically the same speech, showing off Spike's cinema history that he has, but also using that same speech in a very, very different way in this movie too.
You're gonna say something, Andre?
With the whole love and hate thing, I think it's a representation of what the movie's about, and how easily it can go from one to the other, from like love to hate. Like he basically has love on one hand, hate on the other, saying you can get either one. And basically, and it doesn't take a lot from it to go from love to hate. And you kind of see that at the end of the movie, and how quick things can just spiral out of control. And how when you have different people from different backgrounds, races, family, the diversity that you have, and how there's that very thin line that you have to walk, and how low the tolerance really is from it to go from love to hate, and how it can backfire just by saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing, which is why you want to do the right thing in this movie. But it's a representation of what the movie's really all about.
And I also think it ties in with the Martin Luther King, Malcolm X thing. You get both thing. We'll get to it eventually. But
I think they are definitely the left,
and
the right.
And I'm not saying Malcolm X was a hater, but he obviously advocated, change through violence if needed. And Martin Luther King was like, it's all about love, because the only thing that can stop hate is love. Mm-hmm. So I also think that has something to do with it as well.
And I mean, throughout the movie, we're shown the picture of the two shaking hands,
right?
Literally intertwining hands.
The movie ends with that picture too.
Yeah, it shows the two different speeches of Martin and then Malcolm, and how Malcolm says that violence isn't violent when it's in self-defense. I call it intelligence.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And how it's the complete opposite of what Martin said. But at the same time, it's just like, if that's your last option and it is self-defense, that it is intelligent. That's the way you're going to defend yourself.
Are you guys doing Malcolm X for one of your movies too?
Next week.
That's a barn burner. That you're going to see Denzel like on fire.
Have you guys seen that one yet?
No.
They
Oh,
haven't seen any
okay.
of them.
All right.
If this gives you any context, prior to doing this episode, all I had seen was the 25th Hour and Defy Bloods. Like, this is literally a big blind spot.
Which, to be fair, are both like top 5 Spike Lee movies. But
Yeah, they're both great. But yeah, Denzel and Malcolm
Yeah.
X. That's prime Denzel. Just
God, you
yeah,
guys are gonna flip.
just
Anyway,
on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Just
yeah. So yeah, I mean, all these interactions for the first, hour. What is it? Hour and a half, maybe hour and 20 minutes. It all leads to this. Oh, we should probably explain that bug out or bugging out. I can't remember if it's bug out or bugging out.
I wanted to talk about him next.
So
He's got a lot of interesting
he is sort of like the match that's lit about
Mm-hmm.
15, 20 minutes into the movie, where he has a sequence that is, there's a lot of truth to it. Maybe we can discuss that as well. And it's obviously a very funny scene too, the way Aiello reacts to him. He's eating pizza and he wants more cheese. It's going to cost him more money. He sits down and then he realizes that there are no black people there's pictures of, all these Italian Americans on the wall, but there's no black people. And he asks, why is there no black people? This is a black neighborhood. And Sal's like, well, this is my neighborhood. Or I'm sorry, this is my restaurant, And then he says something very funny, which is like, you get your own plates. You can put your brothers, your sisters, your uncles, your aunts all over the wall. Which is arguably like a racist thing to say to him.
Your stepdad, your stepmom.
Yeah. Arguably a racist thing. But like, he's like, I'm boycotting. And then that eventually leads to him, running into Radio Raheem where, I don't know. Does he have a scene earlier in Sal's Diner, I think, where I just watched the movie. I completely forgot already, but like
he wants to get 2 slices, I think.
Yeah.
Goes in there.
And he has the music really.
Really loud. Yeah.
Then he turns it down, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he sort of feels aggrieved as well. And so those two at one point are just like, we're done with this.
But
like,
for different reasons though. Like Radio Raheem doesn't care about the pictures on the wall. He's just mad he can't play his boombox loud.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so he agrees to boycott, but not for the same reason as bug out,
Right.
And
honestly,
that he's the only one that bug out can even find to help him boycott, because everybody else is like, no, dude, I ain't boycotting. That's my favorite pizza in town, in the neighborhood.
The funny thing is like, I actually think bug out kind of has a point with the restaurant. At the same time, like, it's Sal's restaurant, like he can kind of do what he wants with it. But like maybe bug out in a way is saying like, you're in business because we buy your food. So why would you not give us a little bit of credit for keeping you in business? And there's a great scene, maybe like halfway through, just after, where bug out is like talking to, I don't know her name. Is her name Joy, or what's her name? Spike Lee's sister in the movie. Jade. Okay. I think Joy is her real name. And she's just like, you have so much potential to take your energy and harness it in a good way. And he doesn't. Well, maybe he does. I don't know. Maybe you can speak more to that. But so this eventually leads to like bug out and Radio Raheem basically like full on protesting Sal's, which is very ironic, because Sal's talking about, and the speech you talked about earlier, where like Sal's like, he's like, I love doing this, like I love this neighborhood, I love these people. They've provided for me, and that just flips in an instant.
Mm-hmm. And then, again, that's right after the scene where he tells Mookie he's a
son
to him,
exactly
in the same scene.
Yeah.
I think one of the most I want to stick on bugging out for a little bit, because I think my favorite scene is his interaction with Spike's sister. I think that's my favorite.
Okay, my favorite is the gentrified white dude who's like, I was born in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Scuffs up his shoe.
Yeah.
Even though looking up some behind the scenes and people's interpretations of the movie. And one thing someone brought up, when you do the guy riding by with his bike, he runs over his left side. It's his right shoe that's scuffed up. So it was never from that guy. Oh. And I think that's one thing to look at too, because I think we're already setting up beforehand. Bugging out is trying to light fire under other people's asses too, because he already has an antagonistic attitude towards a lot of other people.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the pictures on the wall is a big thing or it's a little thing, but the way he treats it, like it's the end of the world for him. And
right.
But I think other people in the neighborhood, other people in the neighborhood, like, why are you freaking out about this? Like, It's fine. And
yeah.
and I think that's another with the shoe thing is even if maybe that's just a movie mistake.
Maybe
I like to look at it. It's not.
Maybe it's serendipity and it was a mistake and it turned out to be a blessing.
Another character thing. What are you guys' thoughts on that then? Since I brought,
I think
shoe scuffing.
Bug Out is just angry that he just always he's looking for confrontation just all the time, and he just looks for any little thing to justify any anger that he has. So it's like the pictures on the wall may have not really been what made him angry. He was just using that to justify his anger. So I don't really know if that was because if he's he literally is the only person that even cares about it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So it really isn't that big of a deal. Plus, it's an Italian American that owns the restaurant, and it's an Italian restaurant. So it's like if you went to like a soul food place owned by Black people, you would probably see pictures of Black people on the wall. You wouldn't see, you know what I mean? Like regardless of what the clientele or the customers were, that that's what you're going to see. Or if you're going to go to an Asian restaurant, same thing. You're going to see Asians on the wall. So I think he was just trying to he's very nitpicky on trying to justify his anger, and I think maybe he might have just been angry at even just white people in general, the way he treated that the dude in the Celtics jersey and the way he talked to him. You can tell that he has some resentment towards white people, like, what are you doing here? Like, you don't belong here. So I think he's just looking for little things just to get angry at and trying to get other people to join in, so he's not the only one that's angry by himself, so he doesn't look or feel stupid, which you see that in real life too. When somebody, anybody that riots, or whether even in school, like if you see one kid acting out, or he tries to, get other people to join him. And I think that's what he's really trying to do, so he doesn't look like this fool that's the only person that's mad and only person that's angry, because he would look kind of ridiculous if he was just trying to boycott by himself. But if he gets just one person with him, and Rady Raheem, he has some credibility, and now he walks into the shop and starts acting a fool. But
that's a good point.
Yeah, I think it's more of a character flaw that he has as a person, more than really what he's saying is causing the issues. There's probably something deeper.
Okay.
And that's why I love the scene he has with Spike's sister, is because she's basically, it doesn't matter if it's the shoe, pictures on the wall, what she's saying to him is basically the stuff you're fighting for, you could put your energy towards something
to a real
else.
thing.
And actually make real change instead of having a guy put up a different picture on his wall.
Yeah.
And I think that's, again, another one of the great messages of this movie, and one of the things it is trying to say. Or even looking at like how he wants people to follow him too, like Andre said, and he gets Radio Raheem at the end. But even in the little scene with the guy in the Celtics jersey, he has 10 people right behind him going with everything he's saying, even though it is just about scuffing up his shoe, which may or not have been caused by the guy in the Celtics jersey.
Yeah.
And it could just be the guy was wearing a Celtics jersey in Brooklyn. I don't know if that was.
Yeah. Well, I think he'd have more problem in Los Angeles than Brooklyn, but I don't know. Yeah.
I do want to say, just because going into this movie, not even realizing that Esposito was even in this film and whatnot, I'm just so used to somber version of him now.
Yeah.
To watch this and realize watching him literally crank it to 11.
I remember watching. Oh, go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
Well, I was gonna say it's because when he first thing he comes into, it's like almost like side profile. So I was like, it kind of looks like him. I hadn't even looked at the credits. I only knew like a couple people that are in this film. All of a sudden, it just get front face. I'm like, holy shit, it's him. And then he just starts going off of the rails like he does throughout the film, and I'm like, this is not the Esposito I am used to, and which I thoroughly enjoyed, because I think he's a fantastic actor, and I think he did very well for this particular role. But it for me, it was a little bit of a taking back, because that's not what I'm used to, just because I'm used to what he is now.
Yeah. He's versatile.
Very.
Let's kind of jump into some of the other characters we haven't really touched on then. I think one of the big ones is like we said, the film debut of Rosie Perez. She's in the opening credits of the movie. We follow her incredible dance here at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then her interactions with Spike throughout the movie. What do you guys think of her in this movie? What do you think those scenes are trying to showcase? I think they're definitely more leaning towards informing us of Mookie's character more than anything, but also I think she's given in, like, she has that classic Rosie Perez sassy attitude in this, not taking any of Spike's shit in this. What are you guys' thoughts on her role in this movie, her part in the overall story?
I guess is really, I think what the relationship is just showing is just more of I think a flaw to Mookie's character, that he's not the father boyfriend that he really should be. Like she's talking about, like, you haven't seen your kid in a week or whatever, she's saying, like, so it's like he obviously has a lot of flaws in him that he needs to work on. And it's just another dynamic of showing just different issues with the characters and not just talking about just race or whatever. It shows that there's also issues with relationships between a boyfriend and girlfriend, or a father and a son. Just another aspect of the issues that somebody can face, not just in Brooklyn, but really just in life in general. So I think he just kind of throws that in there. I don't really know if there's a whole lot of significance in her character and what the message of this movie really tries to get across. I think it really is more of a reflection on Mookie's character, on the flaws that he has on a father and a boyfriend.
I look at it as there's so many different scenes where we see with Mookie or in reference to him, where everything seems to take forever. And that, like Sal makes the reference that it took him 90 minutes to deliver a pizza around the block.
I think that's on purpose.
Well, but what I mean is the fact that he does everything on his time. He doesn't care what anybody else's time is. And that includes being a father. Like, oh yeah, I'll come back next. She's like, I won't see you until next week, because he's like, oh, I'll get around to it when I get around it, regardless if it's delivering a pizza, seeing his kid, doing this or doing that. He's just like, I'll do it on my time.
Who knows if he even would have shown up to her house that night if she had not ordered a pizza.
Right. I guess what I'm saying is I think that character flaw is on purpose.
Yeah.
Because I think that is why his involvement in the last 20 minutes is so important. Because what he does, that violence that he does, there's hesitation, but it's not 90. What he does is he's like, now is the time that I'm acting. Does that make sense?
The movie doesn't build him as the character that would do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
like he's not the first person we expect.
Yeah. Also, like, boy, I don't know if I'd want to be around Rosie Perez either in this movie. She's got a mouth on her. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's nothing new.
Yeah, I mean, Rosie Perez is great in this. She really supposedly. So I watched the interview with her this morning. She hates when people ask her to say Mookie, because she knows she's like Mookie, so she refuses to even say it nowadays, and I find that really funny. But she's really great in this. She's the typical Rosie Perez that we know as who she is, but she's really good. And that opening credits thing is an all-timer already. It's what a way to open a movie. Just have her just dancing really aggressively to Public Enemy.
So should we talk about? We should talk about the song then, right? I mean, it's the anthem of the movie. Yeah, it's played throughout the entire movie. Yeah,
in a way, we should have seen the ending coming the entire time. Did you guys watch the trailer before you watched the movie? So you had no idea it was leading up to that at all?
No.
How did you feel?
Should we jump in?
No. Let's get to the ending later. I want to hear your thoughts on Public Enemy, because the ending is incredible.
Thoughts on Public Enemy?
You said fight.
I'm not. You're not
this
is my introduction.
You don't. I'm also Public Enemy all the time, Casey.
I'm also born 5 years after this movie came out.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. I
grew up in small town Iowa. We didn't see the Public Enemy. Quite a bit.
Yeah.
He's not acknowledging he had a great big Flavor Flav clock necklace that he wore as a child.
Yeah.
I did watch Flavor of Love. We have talked about that on a different show, but
I'm also not the biggest Public Enemy fan. So
basically, Public Enemy. The best way to describe Public Enemy is a black activist group that raps.
They're basically the black Rage Against the Machine, right?
Yeah, and actually, now that you say that, I think Chuck D and one of the guys at Rage Against the Machine actually formed a group.
They did. Ghost something, or you keep talking. I'm gonna look
yeah, they actually did. They actually formed a group together. So, like if Chuck D would have been born if he would have grew up in born in the 1940s, he would have been marching with Martin Luther King Jr. Like that's basically who Chuck D is.
Not Malcolm X.
Or Malcolm X, yeah, you could probably say, probably more Malcolm X than Martin Luther King, but either one of them, he would have been alongside one of them. And their significance and importance in hip hop isn't necessarily like when you talk about Public Enemy and Chuck D, you talk about them different than you do really most other hip hop artists. It's not necessarily about their like Chuck D's talent as a MC or his skills as an MC, but more about his significance in bringing up issues in the black community and race issues and talking about the government, police, and a lot of touchy subjects that people wanted to stay away from, especially if you're trying to make it big in music. You don't want to ruffle any feathers. Chuck D had no problem ruffling feathers. He talked about racial issues. I mean, he calls Elvis Presley and John Wayne racist in their song, which they probably were, and talks about 911 being a joke. Basically was kind of like how NWA was, but he was a lot more political about it. It was a lot more preachy about it. Instead of trying to be hardcore gangster, he was more of a person that was almost like he's preaching to you and talking to you like a professor in front of a class.
So maybe he is the Martin Luther King, and NWA is the Malcolm X ish. I mean, they really weren't against government or corporation. They were like, this is what's happening in our street stuff.
Yeah. And that's what Chuck D's major significance is how he talked about real issues and didn't do it to make money, didn't do it to make pop songs, to get radio plays. He didn't care what you thought about him. He didn't do things the way that his record label wanted him to do it. So like just his kind of like, fight the power. That's literally like his whole attitude and approach to how he went about his business. And that's his significance in Public Enemy's significance in the hip hop game and hip hop culture. And like that out in his Fear of the Black Planet, and I can't remember which one of their other albums, but like two of their, like, typically when you see like I think in Rolling Stone, they did like the top,
It Takes a Nation.
Yeah. They did like the top 100 albums, and like they were the two highest rated hip hop albums of all time on that list. When I think Rolling Stone did the top 100 albums of all time, just of all genres, like they were the two highest, which I personally don't agree with, but I think
that's a different show.
Yeah, it's another show. But I think it's because of the issues they talk about and how you cannot even be a fan of hip hop and you can hear their message that they're talking about and be like, wow, these guys are really preaching in here. Like they're not just rhyming words together. Like they are actually talking about real life stuff.
And a lot of times, I guess I don't mean to interject, but like it didn't feel racial. Like it was about, obviously it was speaking to African Americans, but like at the same time, it's kind of his music, in my eyes, it was also like the little man, fight back against the rich corporations that are ruining your lives. And it wasn't, it was obviously the music is for, black people, but like it's still, it expands that boundary too.
Oh yeah,
I felt it did anyway.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, for sure. He's not just talking about like just race issues. Yeah. It is about like fighting it back against the government, and the corporations,
New World Order, and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's what he means when he says fight the power.
And fight the power is like their anthem. Like their "We Will Rock You" or whatever you want to say. So I don't know.
Written for this movie.
Oh, was it? I didn't know.
I think Spike approached him for an anthem for the movie.
I could see that. I would not be surprised.
And what I saw from behind the scenes stuff, I think that's
okay. I thought it was written for It Takes a Nation, but I could be wrong.
It's on the album, but yeah, I could definitely see them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's literally the only song played in the entire movie.
Yeah, and
it's early on. It's the only one he can afford.
It's the only song that Radio Raheem plays.
Yeah, that's it. Just on repeat.
And it's sort of like it fades in and out, almost like a warning. It's like and like even like like a coil, like you press a coil down, at some point it's going to snap back. And like, it really feels like the entire time this movie's building, like if you haven't seen the preview, you don't know what's coming. And until it happens, and then Fight the Power and I think like, it feels like Fight the Power is the loudest when Radio Raheem busts into Sal's at the end. And it's like, here you go. So, yeah.
Yeah, let's kind of transition into that then. I mean, I'll look it up here if it was written for the movie. I think so.
Prophets of Rage was the group that Chuck D and
Prophets of Rage. There we go.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But let's kind of, since Blake, you've been doing a great job of this. Throw it off. Do you want to set us up for the climax of the movie?
Yeah.
We'll
So as you said earlier, Sal is sort of having like this. He's having like this epiphany in a way, like, oh, like you guys do a great job here. I might name it after, Sal's and Sons. Mookie, you have a lifetime contract here. And then, all of the anger that Bug Out has been having the entire time has finally boiled over. He's convinced Radio Raheem to fully protest Sal's. They bust in. And Sal is screaming at Radio Raheem to turn his radio down. He refuses. They're yelling at each other. I can't remember like the exact timeline of events, and I think Sal throws out the N-word, and then grabs a baseball bat and starts beating the boombox and breaks it, and then Radio Raheem attacks Sal, and there's a big scuffle. It breaks out in the street, and the police show up, and they end up killing Radio Raheem because they strangle him to death, which feels it was a thing we talked about earlier, how this whole movie feels so timeless and unfortunately timely. The police strangle Radio Raheem to death, and that's when Mookie grabs a trash can and throws it through Sal's pizzeria.
Through the window.
Yeah. What did I say?
Yeah.
Okay. And then all hell breaks loose. And it turns into a very, very, like talking about flipping a tone in a movie. Like, it just turns so serious.
Very fast.
Very, very,
Very fast.
And I think, again, that is on purpose by Spike to do that.
Yeah.
I think this is pretty... I mean, again, we're building up the heat, and I think what's very interesting about this is set during the night. Like, we're at night. It's cooling down a little bit as far as our temperature of what it is outside, but then this is when the heat of everything this movie's been building towards is really just bursting at the seams and ready to break through, and it finally does. And as someone who had no idea what this movie was going to say during it, didn't have any trailers, didn't read a synopsis, didn't read anything about it beforehand. Yeah, I was shocked how much this still mirrors 2020 and the 30 years between that. And I don't know, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this final scene, because I think we have a lot of things building up to this. I mean, we obviously talked about Mookie's relationship with Sal building up to this too, and this feels like almost them finally realizing what their relationship is to one another, at least on one side. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts? I'll throw it out to you guys. What are your thoughts on this climax? And I mean, we can obviously talk about the pieces that are in place during this as well.
I think with Mookie's relationship, when he saw how Sal was interacting with his sister, I think that kind of put a sour taste in his mouth. Maybe made him realize, I like this guy because he employs me. But the way he talks to my sister, it's just like, I don't have to be friendly to him. Like I'm only basically friendly to you because I work here. And I really don't care if I work here anymore. And then when what happened with Radio Raheem, it was just like, okay, that was the final straw. Like, I'm gonna throw a trash can through your window. And that, like, and kind of like how Blake was saying, he seems kind of like a bum almost, like he's just not motivated. I think that was something that motivated him to actually take action and initiative for the first time really in anything in the movie. Like he kind of, like we were mentioning, how he takes forever and to do things and to deliver pizza and just does things on his own time. And then, he's not really a leader, doesn't really take charge as a father or boyfriend or an employee or
in the eyes of the neighborhood.
In the eyes of the neighborhood, he just kind of just does on what he wants, and he's just kind of just the guy that just kind of chills, and then he what happens with Raheem? He's the one that sets off the riot. He's the one that's the only time in the movie really actually takes charge in the initiative and starts the whole riot at the pizzeria. But yeah, and it kind of just shows how different things motivate us and different things can really push us over the edge to use our strength or our power. And we can choose how we want to use it, and that's the way he chose to use it.
Do you think that there was no racial motivation in Mookie's actions? I know we talked about we don't think Sal's a racist. He just sort of used the sharpest knife. Do you think him using the N-word? I don't know.
I think with Sal, him using the N, with Sal, use the N-word toward Raheem, Raheem being murdered, and the way he saw Sal talking to his sister. I think all that together was just like, okay, he didn't have an issue or a problem with even hesitating and throwing that trash can through the window.
Yeah, that's a great point. I see it as this is a black neighborhood. You can make the argument that there's no really big successful black people in the movie, and Sal's restaurant is arguably the most successful thing in the neighborhood, and he saw this as the police left. There's nothing I can rebel against, so I'm going to rebel against the one thing that is arguably I could how do I say this without sounding like an asshole? Well, I just want to be truthful with my thoughts, I really feel like he saw the one thing that was what is going to do the most damage emotionally, here, and it's against the white person's, business. He could go destroy,
He could have gone next door to the market, but it wouldn't have had the same.
He could have destroyed the mayor's apartment, or his own, or Ruby Dee's apartment. But he's like this is the symbol of what is technically keeping what's the most successful thing in this neighborhood. It's not a black owned business, and that's kind of what I saw it as. Is he's it's kind of what we saw with Black Lives Matter. The protest this past year, it was a lot of people I saw were well, why are they burning stuff down? Why are they destroying stuff? Well, it's we tried, everyone tried kneeling. We tried the peaceful way. That doesn't change things, by him using that kind of violence. I thought he was going through the most direct way of well, this is what's going to make change. Is and if I have to risk losing my job for it, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's kind of why I thought the whole movie's buildup of him being lazy and then acting immediately on a very important thing to him was so important. Does that make sense? All I'm sorry for rambling.
And I mean,
the
even
time,
with
but
that, there's another route he could have gone. He could have gone and just punched Sal. And
I don't think so.
He could have. That is an option.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm
not saying it is
the
option
I think
he had ever thought.
Yeah.
That is an option, but I think what he says later at the end of the movie when he's meeting Sal in front of the burned down building, he says, insurance is going to take care of this. You're fine. Your building will be fine. One of my friends is dead because of this.
Yeah.
So inciting that violence, he didn't hurt anyone by doing that.
Exactly.
They burned down a building that was kind of the staple of this community in a way.
Yeah.
And the inciting place of the violence towards.
I mean, Sal goes
friends.
on this rant about how I built this with my two hands, and it's kind of he just destroyed it in one night.
Yeah.
And
again, showing how fast things can.
And we're kind of forgetting that Ozzie Davis stops Spike Lee early in the movie, and he's just always do the right thing. And you wonder if that was the thing in his head that was now this is what I'm doing.
So I'm going to ask the question that apparently Spike Lee hates people asking him. And he said, I saw in an interview with him, he said, I've only ever heard this question from white people.
Yes.
And they asked me, does Mookie do the right thing?
Yeah. And he said no black person's ever asked me that.
Ever asked him that.
Which really makes you think like.
And the fact that I'm asking that is maybe.
Yeah.
Stop being the stereotype, Casey.
No.
No, I think what this movie is trying to say.
Exactly. I think what Spike Lee is saying is like, he's like, if you're white, you see it like this. If you're black, you see it like this. Mm-hmm. And he's not saying it's a racist either way. It's like there's clearly two points of view in this country.
And that's the
well, there's more, but
immediately the question I asked, me and Caleb both watched this, and we asked each other, is like, did he do the right thing there?
Yeah.
And that is I think it is a valid question to ask.
For sure.
But I don't think it's an answer I have.
Okay. No, because Blake said earlier, great movies make you ask questions instead of answer them.
Yeah.
And that's one of those questions that this movie makes you ask.
Yeah.
So I think I
do find it interesting. Yeah. Do you think he did it the right thing?
No pressure.
Okay.
No offense, you're down the line either.
Yeah. No, I mean, look at it like this. Reed Raheem, he like a person's life was lost.
Yeah.
And like Casey said, he could have attacked Sal personally, but he just chose the pizza shop, and the insurance would take care of it. So when you look at comparative, what the two things were lost and which one you can recover, which one you can't.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You could say in that scenario, it's like you want to show your frustration and anger in some way, especially the cops just left. Like the cops didn't.
Yeah, they bugged out.
They just took Ray Raheem's dead body and bounced, and no ambulance came, or you know what I mean? Like they're just like, we're out. So, I mean, I could, in that scenario, if you are in his shoes, I mean, yeah, you could say you did the right thing. I mean, when you're looking at it from the outside perspective, you may look at it differently, but if you're in his shoes,
yeah.
You got to look at whose shoes you're in to answer that question.
Yeah. I'm glad we're talking about this because now I'm thinking about this movie in more ways. Like we have the two quotes we have the one from Martin Luther King and one from Malcolm X, and maybe the first half of the movie is the MLK quote. Give peace a chance. And maybe at the end of the movie is saying like, you know what? Maybe sometimes violence is the way. Well, I guess in Malcolm X's words, it'd be more like self-defense. But oh boy, I mean, like this is tough to talk about because I don't know what the right answers are with all this, and maybe I'm not.
I don't think the movie's trying to give the right answer.
Yeah, sure.
I think again, and even in the title, do the right thing. The right thing for me is very different than what it could be for some guy down the street.
Yeah.
Some guy from another part of the country like that.
Yeah.
The right thing is not a defined thing of knowing what is right and wrong and what's the best thing to do in any given situation. But I think another thing to look at is the mayor character and how he kind of interacts here. He jumps in and says, like, don't do anything. Like, it's over with. Kind of like, what are we going to do here? Like, we can't really stop things that have just happened in front of us. Like we said, the police show up, break up the fight, murder Radio Raheem, pick up his body, put it in the police vehicle, and take off. Like, they're not questioning anyone. That just happens in the movie.
Yeah.
I think that's very explicit and on purpose by Spike, that the police don't show up until after in SWAT vehicles and fully armored up and stuff until the inciting violence happens. So I don't know. I guess I think that's one thing the movie is not. It's not really preaching to anyone, but it is making you ask questions that it's not ever going to really give you the answers to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I like the mayor's character a lot in this. I think he might be one of the most important characters in the movie because he has it worse than probably anybody in the movie. Like, he's basically like homeless. He has every reason to be what Bug Out is. You know what I mean? Just be angry all the time. But he's like the most positive and optimistic and the most loving and caring. Yeah. He's kind of like the MLK to Bug Out's Malcolm X.
Unless you mess with his beer.
Yeah, like the mayor's like he has every reason to be resentful, but he's like the most peaceful one in the whole neighborhood, and it shows how you're not defined by your circumstances, but how you choose to react to it. And that's what this movie does so good with all the characters, is that they're all in the same neighborhood, kind of with the same experiences, but they all react to it completely different.
I never thought about any of that.
And even with his character early on, when he rescues that kid from getting hit by a car, he even asks himself, did I do the right thing? Would I have done that again if I had, thought about it twice? Even after he rescues the kid, the mom is pissed off at the kid.
I did enjoy that. She's first mad at Mayor because he tackles the boy, and then when Mayor says what happened, all of a sudden he's like, the mom flips out on the kid. Like, you don't lie to mom. You never lie to mom.
Well, again, I think there's different messages, even just in smaller scenes here. Of again, what was the right thing for that kid to do in that situation? Is to tell your mom I was in the middle of the street and this guy saved me. Obviously, he instead says, no, this old guy tackled me. And again, different scenarios of what the whole movie is trying to say here. And again, like Blake said, the dualities of so many different characters, and more explicitly than it's just shown, like with the picture of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And I mean, that's the last picture hanging on the wall of Sal's place is those two up on the wall. And I mean, I suppose maybe we should talk about that character as well, Smiley. Bring up his kind of role in this entire movie and where that's because
so
again, more complexities to this movie. With this character.
Go ahead.
Oh, you can go.
The one thing that I was thinking about while we're talking about all this today is like he has a stutter, like a really bad stutter, and I wonder if, and I might be looking in this too much, my movie brain going into overdrive or whatever, but like I wonder if that's on purpose in the terms of like the guy who's trying to speak about the truth maybe is the one who's is muted the entire time in a way. Like he's always trying to he's just trying to earn a living. He's just trying to promote like what he believes, which for as far as I understand is peaceful. He does get in at the end of it, but I also don't think he is
He's the one that started the fire.
But I don't think he is. He's all there, I think he's a slower dude. But like it really, it feels like his voice is being muted the entire, like not muted, but like snuffed out. And I don't know.
He's trying to give a positive message in what these two individuals bring, and
but he just never get it out.
Right.
And every time he interacts with like Sal and his family, he's pretty much shut down right away, no matter what.
Same thing with Bug Out. Bug Out's always shutting him up.
And it's never taken with patience with him. There's no patience.
Yeah. This is really a perfect movie. Like this is just
like I said, like the balance to this movie is just so even from the beginning to end. The balance of the characters and the flow of this movie is almost perfect.
Yeah.
And I mean, even a thing we talked about sort of at the end is Mookie throwing the trash can through the window racially charged? Is that that's a good question you should throw out there, but I think even with that is like I said, who burns the building down? No one else was lighting a match in the building.
Yeah, right. But like Andre said earlier, like all it takes is one guy to get one other person to join in on the ruckus, and like the guy who's not the smartest is going to be like, well, clearly I need to join this and do something. And that's a fire, unfortunately. But he's also carrying a picture of both peace and hate. Technically, I don't know enough about Malcolm X to say if he's hated or not, but he had the two sides, and he's promoting both pictures, or the picture of both, I should say. So he obviously has that hate and love inside of him too, like you said.
Yeah,
it's the hate. The love is there, but the hate can easily come in quicker than probably love can come in. So.
Yeah, because as soon as he got when he was outside of Sal's shop and the son started going crazy,
but
he's trying to sell him the picture, and then Sal comes out and buys the picture from him. I think that right there kind of brought the hate out of him. He was he's like, oh, okay. So later on in the movie, it's like, I remember when you guys treated me like trash when I was trying to sell you that picture, and I'm gonna light your shop on fire.
And who knows how many years of that he took.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it's the first time he's tried to sell those guys outside the pizza shop.
I also looked at the inclusion of Smiley at the very end, though, is his way of feeling accepted as part of the entire group, because he's always seems to be the one that's getting shut out of everything.
That's a good point, Brian.
Because I mean, nothing happens to that shop. Yeah, nothing happens to that shop until Mookie throws the can. Then that's when everybody starts going off, and this is his one opportunity to be able to say, "Hey, I can be a part of this, and nobody's going to say no to me."
Yeah.
Should also mention a character not written for the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
The actor would show up constantly to the set, and finally Spike, and he created the character of Smiley, and it brought it to Spike, and Spike's like, how can I fit this
I
in?
think that actor's been in other Spike Lee movies, but I might have to look. But interesting. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, so let's jump to the kind of the conclusion of this movie, the interaction between Mookie and Sal. There's so much going on just in this scene too. I mean, again, I think, like we said, we talked about how Sal is in a way comparing his building to what happened to Radio Raheem. Like both are gone, but in the case of a building, you can rebuild, you can start over with that. But in the case of Radio Raheem, like his life's gone. There's no way you can bring him back.
Mm-hmm.
I love the duality. Again, duality is, I think, a big part of this movie too. The duality between those two characters, what the building represents, what Mookie's friend represents, how that all has come to a head here, and now we're literally both characters are feeling at the lowest points of their life, but in very different situations.
I love the audacity that Spike has to go and ask for money the very next day. Like, you owe me money. Where's my money at?
At the same time, like
he owed him.
Right, he did.
He worked for it, like in a way there's a truth to that, like, hey, I did do what I did, but like I got a family to raise. I got a kid here that I see once a week that I gotta pay for. So
I know I just threw a garbage can through your window, but
I know I just insinuated a riot on your place of business, but can I get paid?
Yeah, right.
Not only that, but Sal gives him twice as much as he's owed.
Right.
And then he even says, my salary's $250, not $250.
Mm-hmm.
My salary's $250, Sal. And then he's just like, I owe you $50. So he's just being honest to himself and the situation.
Do you guys read into that as, Sal's giving him more than what, like, here, just take the $500. You're a rich man now. You're the richest man on the block. You have $500 in your pocket. And Spike easily could have picked that up, taken the $500 and walked away.
I see that as Sal doesn't understand why Mookie burned his place down. Like, he thinks it's about the money, but Spike is saying it's not about the money. It's about the life that was lost. You know what? I'm not gonna lie.
Does he also think it's a way of like, no, I don't want it to be a power change on the other half either. We should be equal in this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I owe you $50 because you paid me.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you guys read it that way? I think that is an interpretation we can throw out there.
I also read it as he doesn't see himself as a charity.
I think Saul looks at everything like a business interaction.
Mm-hmm.
With Mookie, anyway.
Yeah, with Mookie. I think that's
even though he said your family. I don't believe that.
I think he sees the whole thing kind of like as business and around money and business, and not about like the actual magnitude of the whole situation of a life being lost and the riot and all that. It's just more like, oh, my business is burned down. I think that he looks at it at a completely different angle than Mookie and the rest of them did.
I don't think Sal learned from this. Is what I
Yeah.
No.
I also think Mookie, if we get a sequel, which I think Crooklyn kind of is like a spiritual sequel, but if we got like a direct sequel, I think Mookie's still working for Sal in like 2 or 3 years.
Once the pizza place is back up?
I think so. I think that interaction, even though it was like, like I owe you $50, and I still think there's like I think Sal maybe not have learned from like what exactly happened, but I think he understands maybe Mookie's motivation behind the whole thing. I don't know, but when I finish the movie, every time I watch it, I'm like, he totally comes back to work for him.
But when they rebuild it, Mookie's name is next to Sal's on the sign.
Maybe.
He's like, you got to rebuild. I work for you. We got to put my name up there.
Mookie and Sal's.
Mookie, Sal, and Sons.
Anyway, that achieves what Bug Out wanted in a way. And who knows? Maybe at that point, there's black people in the diner hung up. I don't know. There was, I guess, at the end of the movie.
Right? There was.
Yeah.
So he gets, again, Bugging Out gets what he wanted 20 minutes into the movie, but it's paid a price.
Just through violence,
and
or self-defense, whichever way you look at it.
And even some of the final lines of the movie from Sam Jackson as the radio DJ is saying, it's gonna be hotter.
It's gonna be hotter. You and I watch the same wrap-up videos, I think, on YouTube because Because basically what they're saying is like this isn't going away.
Yeah.
This situation's not.
And
going
even
away.
Sal, I think Sal says it at the end of the day too, like, or at the beginning of the next day is, well, Mookie, today's going to be hotter than it was yesterday. It's like, no, this isn't the end of anything.
Yeah.
This is, if anything, the
Yep.
start of something.
Yep. And clearly, like if you want to extrapolate that to real life, we're nowhere near solving any of this. So
no, not at all. I would like to point out how much I enjoy Sam Jackson in this film, just for the fact that he is not again, kind of like Esposito. He's not the Sam Jackson I'm used to today. This might be Sam Jackson.
He's Sam Jackson.
Well, no, in that respect, yes. But like being that he's the radio DJ, his language is probably toned down to a minimum in terms of what he can say on radio, kind of stuff. I enjoy. One thing I enjoyed about this in terms of some of the people that are in this film is how many people who were in this film that were no-name people or very little to no-name people that have amassed large careers. I mean, look how just weird and obnoxious Martin Lawrence.
Right. His character is like when you see him in
that weird enunciation.
Yeah. It's so good.
Or the fact that, even just when you get the beginning credits, when you're like introducing Rosie Perez, you're like, I don't know a time when she wasn't around. Yeah.
Sam Jackson, I think he was in something else before this, but he was in Coming to America.
Coming to America, that was his first role. He robbed Mac Arnold.
I want to say Whack Arnold.
Whack Arnold. I think McDowell's.
Yeah, because
McDowell's. Whack Arnold's is on the Chappelle Show. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't even know where like John Turturro kind of came out of nowhere with this. The guy who he plays his brother, I can't think of his name right now. Vito. He was also in a lot of like Jim Jarmusch movies in the 80s. So this is kind of like his first bigger-ish movie.
And then he went to go make Super Mario Brothers and probably just killed his career.
Wow. Yeah. But so many great people in this, just big careers after this. Samuel L. Jackson, Rosie Perez both got Oscar nominations later. Danny. I feel like Danny Aiello still wasn't, a big name at this point either.
Frankie Faison.
Yeah, Spike Lee was catapulted into, and then he went on to do, I think Jungle Fever was next, which is, I think, not as good as this, but equally as important. And then Mo Better Blues, and then obviously he made Malcolm X, which I don't know if you guys remember was just a huge fu to I don't want to say white America, but the Hollywood thing. It was like Malcolm X, he funded it and everything, and it was like you might remember this, but him and Denzel Washington, they went everywhere wearing the black hats with the X in the middle, and it was just this huge thing. So this is a huge catapult for everyone involved, including and the great Roger Ebert was one of my heroes, and he was livid. This movie got 0 Oscar nominations. It got 2, I think, but best picture, best director, it was missing. So it was great that the movie had its champions, but it should have gone so much further than it did when it came out, and it's unfortunate, but. We all know the best movies don't win the Academy Awards, so
that's true.
It's Do the Right Thing clearly has this huge cultural impact 30 years on.
The Oscars didn't do the right thing.
No,
I think Driving Miss Daisy.
I'm going to look up the Oscars.
I think it was Driving Miss Daisy, which I don't mean to go fully into racial stuff, but it features a black man driving a white woman around the entire time. Boy, you could have So the duality of that year's Oscars, boy.
Here's your best directors, which Spike should have been in. Oliver Stone won for Born on 4th of July. Kenneth Branagh, Henry V. Woody Allen. Jim Sheridan, My Left Foot. And Peter Weir, Dead Poets Society.
Oh, my God. Listen, I love all those directors, but those are some boring-ass directing choices for directing. When you have this literal culturally important movie that is full of fire and anger and has something to say, and you can't even nominate it. I don't know. We shouldn't take the Oscars seriously, but you kind of can with stuff like this. If the Oscars nominated
itself as the end all be all of movie awards,
right? If the Oscars nominated this, it would have shown that they cared about a progressive idea. you know, and
they're barely doing that 30 years later.
A Green Book. Yeah. Anyways,
Do you guys want to hear best pictures here?
Yes.
I do.
Driving Miss Daisy did win. Dead Poets Society, My Left Foot, Born on the 4th of July, and Field of Dreams were nominated for best picture.
I've said my piece on this.
So, yeah, that's what was nominated instead of Do the Right Thing.
Yeah. Well, I think things are changing now,
Yeah.
so I think that's good, in terms of awards, anyways.
And I do think one thing that the Academy is doing right here is the 5 to 10 rule. I think that is a good thing to have. You can have more than 5. I mean, even looking at these 5 best pictures, there's some damn good movies.
Yeah, I think
there's Do the Right Thing fits in.
I think the real win this movie. I mean, listen, I'm not here to say that this movie hasn't had an impact, but I think the real win this movie could have is if they decide to show it in schools with a proper discussion around the ideas of the movie. And with what's happened in the past few years, maybe that could happen. Maybe, I don't know. It's just like I watched it. You watched it twice in the past
weeks.
Yeah, I watched it once. And it just still feels like this is a very relevant movie, today. I remember in high school we watched Last of the Mohicans, and I was like, okay, this movie's fine, but
it's not relevant.
Yeah,
really,
it's not relevant at all.
Not a whole lot of
show Requiem for a Dream or The Breakfast Club or Do the Right Thing, movies that have something to say and that can really promote talk amongst people whose minds are being molded. I don't know.
I think that's a fantastic idea. It's just, you get some of these ones that are deemed like the movies that we need to watch, because I think the only one I can even think of off the top of my head that would even be remotely close would be like when they did To Kill a Mockingbird, Yeah. But otherwise you don't really get any of those cultural, oh yeah, we get to watch Romeo and Juliet. Yes. Shakespeare was, whatnot, but something like this that gives you cultural now to help shape the people now, I think would definitely be something we need to have.
Yeah. Andre, I'll go ahead and have the last word on this. What do you feel about the impact of this movie on your life and where do you think it lies within film?
I think with this movie, it doesn't pick a specific topic. It just shows the day in the life of just an individual that a lot of people could relate to. It's a lot of people could watch this movie and pick one of the characters and be like, oh, that reminds me of me, or reminds me of somebody that I know, and it reminds me of my life. Especially if you grew up in Brooklyn, New York, I'm sure that's it was probably a pretty typical scene or scenery of what you would go through every day, and you can pick in different characters that you can relate to, or that people that are similar to, and it's very impactful to what you actually experience, and just it's realistic. It's not like a movie that a lot of movies that you see is something that you'll never experience ever, so you can't really relate to. Where this movie, you can relate to a lot of different things in this, and things that you are currently going through or will go through or have gone through already. Or when you're watching the news and you see these things that are going on in real life, and then you see this movie, and it's just like, whoa, I just saw that in the news last night. That literally just happened. And this movie was made 30 years ago, but this last May, we saw what happened up in Minnesota, and that literally happens at the end of this movie, and it's 30 years apart. And you don't have to necessarily be born around this time to relate to this movie. You could be born 10 years ago and relate to it just based on watching the news or what you're going through right now. So a lot of the other movies that they might show in school or might be important are only important for the time that they were in, that you can't really relate to now, where this movie is relatable no matter what time you're in. So that's why this movie stands out above a lot of other movies. It's not necessarily geared towards a certain age group or a certain race or people from a certain area. No matter where you're from, there's something in this movie that you can relate to that you've probably experienced. And so I think that's what makes this movie stand out above a lot of other movies that have came out trying to get a certain point across.
I have two things as we're going to wrap this up here. The Public Enemy song "Fight the Power" was requested by Spike for them to come up with an anthem for this movie. So that was I looked it up after. But also the question I'm going to kind of leave off on is one I want to introduce into the show, because I mean, all of us, I think we all love double features. That is one thing I want to throw out into the show going forward is what makes a great double feature with our feature film. So this is a really hard one. I don't even know if I have an answer for it. What is a great double feature to do with Do the Right Thing, to play either beforehand or after the movie?
I really like Boys in the Hood.
Do you have an order you would play the two in?
Ooh, that's tough.
Yeah.
Because Boys in the Hood is something not everybody can relate to. That's more geared towards just like, if you're more of the Black community growing up around just other individuals like yourself. It's not a real big mix of diverse characters. But I think it can help people that aren't from that type of a background or that type of an environment get a better understanding of that environment, of the experiences and why people may act or behave a certain way if they grew up in that environment. So it's a gateway to a lot of people, white America into the ghetto of South Central LA. Instead of just rap music or what they see on TV, this is getting a little deeper. With that, so I would like that would be a pretty good double feature, I think, because that's another really great movie that was very important for the time that it came out, and even important now for just the way you can be influenced by your surroundings and choose whether you want it to be negative or positive, whether you want to become that same environment or you want to become the opposite and do the right thing.
Blake, do you have
I don't have a movie I have no idea. But I want to kind of piggyback off of what Andre said. I remember this like interview or something with Eazy-E where someone asked him like why their music is so, violent or misogynistic or whatever. And he said, well, like all we're doing is we're journalists. Like we're just telling you what we experience. And that's kind of what like Boys in the Hood does in a way, just, not as in your face. It's like it's informing of like what this situation is and what people have to go through in this country. And that's, like you said, that's the difference between that and Do the Right Thing. I don't know what I would double this with. I have no idea. I feel like when I watch this, I don't want to do anything else except go to sleep. Because I'm so drained by this movie emotionally. And I don't know. I mean, the easy answer for me would be like Malcolm X, but like they kind of.
Would you want to watch? Like, would you want to watch the two back to back?
No.
Yeah.
Especially because I think Malcolm X is like 4 hours long.
It's really long,
but
yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to think about it. Like, I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, it is a tough one. Yeah, Boys in the Hood is the only thing I could really come up with.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sitting here and I'm having not had gone into this movie, I couldn't even be mentally prepared knowing what I would even start before I even watch this movie and whatnot. I don't have an answer now. I don't know how I could do that.
I honestly think I might even pair it with like Black Klansman, because you guys haven't seen Black Klansman yet. Okay, so I'm gonna spoil but not spoil the ending of Black Klansman for you. It's like,
don't spoil it.
No. I'm literally not even going to say anything about what happens. What I'm going to say is what I think Spike Lee is trying to say. The end of Black Klansman ends with like real life news footage of stuff that happened literally like 6 months before the movie was released. And I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with being told I'm wrong because I often am. I think what Black Klansman is trying to say is that if we want to solve the issue of race in this country, white people need to wake up and jump in because, one race can't do it alone. I think. I haven't seen the movie in a long time. I think that's what Spike Lee is trying to say. And I could be wrong, and someone can definitely tell me if I am. That's what I got out of it, was like, he's like, listen, we're trying to solve this. Why aren't you? And you guys will get to the movie. You guys will discuss it, and the Adam Driver character in that movie is very integral to the entire thing. And when you watch the movie, I think you'll know why I'm saying what I'm saying. But so I think I would pair it with that, because in a way, Black Klansman is like 30 years on. Listen, we're still having this argument. We're still having this fight. Why have we not progressed? And I think maybe that's what I would pair it with, even though that might be like a really cop out answer. I don't know.
That's a good thing, good movie to pair it with. And you were right when you said it takes involvement of everybody.
Yeah.
Because
we can discuss it more when you guys see it. I don't want to ruin
Yeah.
it, but the Adam Driver character is integral to my idea behind that thought. I'll say that.
Because I think if you have,
he's kind of the Mookie of
seen,
Black Klansman. He's kind of like, why me? You know. But
I don't know if you've seen the trailer for Black Klansman, but there's a part of the trailer where Adam Driver's character is like, I don't have a foot in this race.
Exactly.
And then John David Washington was like, you're Jewish. You do have a foot in this race.
Yeah.
We're going against the KKK. They hate Jews.
Exactly,
you obviously have a foot in this race as well. So it's like, you're right. Like, it takes, like, you have to come along with the black man.
Yeah.
With us here.
Yeah. We're all in this together. Yeah. So that's I think what I would choose. But
that's a good one. I like that.
I'm gonna have to watch that movie before you guys talk about it, because I really want to see it. I love Black Klansman.
Yeah, it is a really good movie.
Yeah.
I feel like Spike won an Oscar for that.
I did. And just to like,
by Sam.
Yeah. You got to realize when Sam Jackson walks out, you're like, oh shit, Spike's gonna win. And he didn't jack jaw Reggie Miller. I'm so pissed about that, but whatever.
Yeah. Yep. He should have.
Anyways, just to speak briefly on Spike Lee, like, the guy's had an incredible career. He's made like very socially, like, I think responsible. I think I can use that word, and very important movies that really speak to maybe I shouldn't even say this, that speak to the black experience in this country. I shouldn't say that, actually. That's very shitty of me to say that, but
you did. It's
I like Spike Lee. I like Spike Lee because he is a very proud black person, and on screen, it's all there. Like, there's no apologies.
Oh yeah.
It's like, I am who I am. I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of where I come from. I'm proud of my existence, and I'm going to give you my life. That's what I've gotten out of his movies. He's made some bad movies, like he really has, but he's made some incredible movies, and I feel like we're getting this uptick now in quality from him. Like, The Five Bloods was incredible. Black Klansman's incredible. Yep. Like, we're hitting this new Spike level, and the people who are getting in now, it's like, all right, go back and watch the other ones, because see how he got here, and see how he's still very culturally relevant.
Mm-hmm. I agree. One thing I like about him is he's completely unapologetic.
Yeah. What's he been to you? Like, what do you think of Spike? You and I have talked about Spike a lot.
Yeah. So growing up, born in '83. So my first memories of Spike, to be honest with you, are his Michael Jordan commercials when he played Mars Blackman.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Is it the shoes money? Is it the shoes?" Like, he's the one that came up with that, and him being like sitting on the rim, rocking the J's and the Mars Blackman chain. Like, that's how I was introduced to Spike.
Yeah.
Because I was maybe like 7 years old. So that's how I first knew Spike. And then I found out that he was a director. I thought he was just in these commercials randomly for no reason at first.
But it was all about that hat he always wore.
Yeah. That said Brooklyn on it,
thick glasses.
And then I found out he was a director, and I think the first movie that I saw of his, I think, was Malcolm X. Was the first movie that I remember seeing, and then Do the Right Thing. Crooklyn. I saw a few of his other movies. Clockers.
Yeah.
That I think actually Clockers might have been.
I think my first He Got Game.
Yeah, He Got Game. Yep. I think
that's an incredible movie. It's so good.
Yeah, I think Clockers or Malcolm X. One of those two movies was the first two that I've seen of him, and he was really. He was the first black director that I remember ever hearing about, and I was like, wow, this is black. Because every other director that I knew of was always white, and then and so like him just kind of being like, he was like the Tiger Woods of directing to me. It was like, a one black dude and a whole bunch of white guys. Like, that's pretty much what he was to me.
And he's better than all of them.
Yeah. So like he was inspirational. I mean, just to see that he's a student and he did what he wanted to do too. He made what he wanted to make. He didn't just make the average Hollywood film that a whole bunch of other dudes like just kind of fall by the wayside. It's like his movies kind of stand out above a whole bunch of other directors. Like he has his own lane that he put himself in, and was very intentional too. You can tell like he didn't want to be another run of the mill director.
Yeah.
And that's like one of the things I love about Do the Right Thing is that the very beginning is like Spike Lee. You can just tell he has confidence in this movie and who he is as a director and an actor. You can just see the swag coming from him in his outfit and his haircut are just fresh, right? From the get-go. He has the J's on, the Jackie Robinson jersey. You know?
I was going to bring that up. That's a good point.
Yes.
He wears a Jackie Robinson
jersey right off the bat. You know, like the first black dude in major leagues, you know, and like he's like the first, you know, big time black director in the major leagues.
That's a good point.
You know, and this is his coming out party. Like he had a movie before this, like Jackie Robinson was in the Negro Leagues, but when he got in the major leagues, it's like Do the Right Thing was him coming into the major leagues.
Yeah.
So like that, I like the connection that he kind of had there, and he just
it's like he knew it was going to be.
He knew it. Like
he knew it was going to be an announcement movie. Like this is me, a new fresh voice.
Yep.
And I'm, you know, like I know this is going to. Yeah, the movie feels so fleshed out, and like lived in and real, and like every detail seems like so meticulously planned. Like it just, like I said, I really think it's a perfect movie. Like there's not one thing I would change in this movie. Like it's just perfect. But
for sure.
I love Spike Lee movies. Like he's just doing his own thing. Like you said, he has his lane, and no one is like when he's on fire, no one touches how good he is. No one does. So
and he does like he does those things in his movies, like in this one where the people are looking at the camera and just start talking right directly at the camera. Like nobody else does that.
Yeah, and Brian, I think you brought it up when we did our live show a couple weeks ago. We're like, in the Five Bloods, like all the old guys are the young guys.
Nobody would do that.
Nobody would do that. Yeah, and like Spike Lee does this thing in Jungle Fever where who are the Wesley Snipes and Annabelle Sciorra, when they're walking down the street, they're clearly on like they're being pulled. Like you can't see their shoulders moving. They're literally like standing still, but they're walking. And there's like these footsteps, but they're not walking. They're being pulled on like a some sort of like
conveyor belt.
Yeah, something like that. It's and they do it in Black Klansman too, but like, and he just has like these little things that take you out, and you're like, and you know you're watching a movie, and Spike knows that. He's like, these guys are watching a movie. I'm going to give them a movie experience, even though it feels like real and lived in. And I love those like little bouts of fantasy and breaking the fourth wall, and like no one does that, and he has the confidence to just do it and trust his audience to be like, I'm here for this ride. And all of his movies have that. You know, even 25th Hour has these little, like 25th Hour does these things where like a moment, like there's a scene where like Rosario Dawson's running down the street to hug Edward Norton, and she hugs him, and then all of a sudden like a different point of view where she's running, like it's the same thing. It plays out like 3 or 4 times from different point of views, and like just like no one does stuff like this, and that's why I appreciate Spike Lee, because he just has the confidence to not give a shit what people think about his movies. I just he's one of our best filmmakers. He's one of our most original filmmakers, and it's gonna be a sad day when he's not here making movies anymore.
I'm gonna throw a real quick question out just for the sake of curiosity, because you brought up another film. So obviously this has a lot of the laced in with the Public Enemy throughout the entire film. Does he have a lot of his films where there's like music as the core to it? Because the first thing I thought is when you brought up He Got Game. This be a movie that I've never seen. I know of the movie. I've known of the movie for the longest time because I have literally owned that soundtrack that Public Enemy did every track for 20 years. And which is an absolute, because I put it this way: if that movie is anywhere near the capacity of what the greatness of that soundtrack is that Public Enemy put out, then I know it's already going to be a good movie. So,
you've never seen He Got Game? Or
no. But the biggest reason I even remember when I bought that soundtrack was because of
that sample they used,
of the Buffalo Springfield sample that they used, which is an absolutely fantastic song. So it was one of those things that's like, okay, I'm familiar with Public Enemy. I want to hear this. And just, I mean, the soundtrack itself is just great.
For me, He Got Game is like upper middle tier Spike. It's a great movie, but it's like it's not important, you know.
It shows the experience of a like, let's say, a premier prodigy athlete growing up in the hood and has every Division I college.
I guess
going
in that
after
respect,
him.
it's very important.
But then also shows like the father-son dynamic with Denzel and Ray Allen. Ray Allen really, he was at this time, I think he was a rookie in the NBA. I think he just won like Player of the Year in college, or him and Allen Iverson were 1 and 2.
And he's really good in the movie.
And yeah, he is. I mean, for him being a first time ever acting, he's not bad.
Yeah.
But and
I think he's really good.
Yeah.
Well, first time actor is not bad.
Yeah, he's not bad. I wouldn't say he's really good.
Is he better than Shaq? That's what
yes.
really
Yes.
Yeah.
This ain't no blue chips.
Yeah. He's better. Yeah, he's better than Shaq. But no, I like the movie. I like, and Denzel's, obviously always
also
he's Denzel.
The movie opens with a montage of people playing basketball to Hoedown by Adam Copeland, and you might not know what that song that is, but if in the 80s there was like this like Beef It's What's for Dinner commercial, and it had like this really like hoppity like symphony music, and they used that music to people playing basketball in like the hood. It's incredible.
Yeah,
I highly recommend checking the scene out after this, because it's just
that's on our list.
He Got Game
movies to watch. Yes.
Oh,
that has been added to Spike Lee month.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
we'll do a whole episode.
Yeah, it's
we're working. I'm fingers crossed on a guest that will.
Yeah. It's
a good perspective to that.
Yeah,
I can't say it because we have no one.
Ray Allen's name is Jesus Shuttlesworth, because he named him after Moses Malone, whose nickname was or not Moses Malone, but Earl the Pearl Monroe, who played for the Knicks, and his nickname growing up playing street ball was Black Jesus. And that was Denzel's favorite basketball player in the movie, so he named Ray Allen Jesus.
Yeah.
So Jesus Shuttlesworth, and that name is like forever ingrained in basketball history as like one of the throwback jerseys that people get is for this fake movie character's name.
Shuttlesworth.
Cool. Yeah, like when Ray Allen played in the Celebrity Basketball All-Star game, after he retired, he rocked Shuttlesworth jersey.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, not the Ray Allen jersey, except Shuttlesworth on the back.
That's funny.
Yeah,
I can't wait for you guys to see that movie. It's really good.
Yeah.
I'm just to kind of wrap this up here. I'm very excited that we're doing Spike Lee month, because for me and Brian, like we said at the top, this is big blind spot for both of us. So it's nice to jump into something very fresh, very new for both of us, and hearing stories that I've never heard before, and even going as far as like trailers or even knowing anything about his movies. Black Klansman was probably the first Spike on my radar, and then jumping in Five Bloods was my first Spike Lee movie. So I'm as fresh as could be in his filmography.
I hope you like the ride, because it's a good one.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. This is
he's one of my favorite filmmakers.
A stacked month. I can't wait to watch the movies in our series that we're doing and stuff outside of it.
I know it's not a part of your guys' watch, but I highly recommend 25th Hour. It's, for me, like, it's probably his second best movie. It's an incredible movie, and it's probably the best movie about moving on after 9/11 that you'll ever see. And I do want to say one thing. You talk about music, Brian. I think one of the great things about Spike Lee's movies is he, for the most part, he's used the same composer, Terrence Blanchard, who was a trumpet player on Do the Right Thing. Bill Lee did the music for Do the Right Thing, but Terrence Blanchard played trumpet for the score, and he would eventually start scoring Spike Lee's movies. And for my money, I know this is going to probably sound sacrilegious, but like for my money, the Terrence Blanchard Spike Lee team up is as good as the John Williams Spielberg. Like I don't want one without the other. Like they just work so well together, and he creates these really great melancholic scores that just are so good and really layer his movies. And I when you watch his movies, please listen to the scores specifically, because they really drive home just how great these stories are.
See, and I like stuff like that, just because of the fact that if you have, music for me, though I can't sing a note or play a note to save my life, is it's a very part of one's life. The fact that you need to have somebody like that. That's why I think like even like the Trent Reznor, David Fincher kind of thing, whatever. If you just have a certain kind of dynamic that works and they get each other, don't change that.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, I mean, if Spike's got something on that same lines, I mean, I would be like, you know, you can't change that unless one of them dies.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So,
I could go on forever, so we should probably start talking.
Let's wrap it up here. We're at 2:15. This is another banger long episode for us. We have, again, another episode where we have exceeded the runtime of the actual movie, and that is A-okay. We're going to wrap it up here. Next week, we are covering Malcolm X as we continue Spike Lee month.
Put that fire emoji up.
We're getting ready for it. Malcolm X next week. Denzel getting introduced to this month as well. So I'm very excited about that. I've always loved Denzel. So very excited to finally get into Malcolm X next week. But yeah, let's kind of plug things here and we'll kind of wrap it up. If you'd like to subscribe to this podcast, you can on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Amazon Music, and on YouTube. And if you want to check out anything and everything we're doing, go check us out on backlot605.com. And if you would like to join our Patreon, you can do so. Patreon.com/backlot605. $1, $3, $5 tiers there, and you can help support the show, get bonus content. You get the episode a few days early every single week, and you get a bonus episode. And those will be out by the time this episode is out for the January bonus episode. So those should be up on our Patreon for our $5 tiers. So go ahead and help us out there if you can. If not, that is all right. You can help us out in other ways. And Brian, you want to let them know how they can in other ways?
Yeah, come check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all at Backlot605. Also check us out on the South Dakota Film Community group on Facebook. Join the conversation. We like to talk about movies and what's going on, news, and all that fun stuff.
All right, throw it off to our guest. You guys, Blake or Andre, have anything you guys like to plug throughout there before we finish off here?
Nothing to plug, but if you are wanting to know more about Spike, I suggest you look into his relationship with Reggie Miller. It's their feuds they would have.
There's an actual ESPN documentary on
There's literally a documentary on the 30 for 30 called Miller Time, where it's just about him playing against the New York Knicks, and Spike Lee was pretty much courtside for every game, and they have a big feud, and so that's great. Look into that. But yeah, that's about all I got.
Yeah, go see The Thing Saturday night. We want that to sell out at the State Theater. I host a Criterion podcast with Andy Heller from Fat Dude Digs Flicks, which, by the way, Spike has a couple movies in, including Do the Right Thing. And I think Bamboozled is the other one. We have not talked about that one. I have not seen it, unfortunately. I know Corey Jacobson rides hard for Bamboozled, so shout out to him as well. That might be it. Don't follow me on social media, please.
Yeah, don't follow Blake's hot takes.
You'll get burnt.
All right, let's wrap this thing up here again. Thank you, Andre. Thank you, Blake, for joining us on this. This was much needed discussion after watching the movie for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And if people are out there and you need someone to talk about this movie, please find someone to talk about. And you need to talk. This is a movie that must be discussed after you watch.
Yeah.
And hopefully,
Very
this podcast helps with that too. I think that's another great way of looking at movie podcasts. Is after you watch the movie, hearing other voices talk about it it's kind of therapeutic and a great way to look at it. So hopefully, this podcast did that for you. So anyway, for Brian Mensing, I am Casey Calderman. Thank you all so much, and we will check you all out next time on the Backlot of South Dakota.
And that's